lists of powerful bots faded into obscurity, there remain many others who also deserve a mention and remembrance. So, if you have some such Transformers names on your mind, comment and tell us
All
why
right,
you
everyone.
think they should be a part of the list. Do you feel they
Here we
should have had a
go.
comeback in the globally
5,
popular Western
4,
canons? Why?
3,
Let us know in the comments.
2,
And also share the video so that
1.
other fans
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To
Like,
be xenophobic nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
I mean, look, I gotta be honest with you, like, you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. Hi, I'm Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report.
What a beginning
Today,
to
I am
this.
surrounded
What
by
an
20
amazing beginning.
conservatives.
That's just a beginning for you.
My first claim is Trump's attack on DEI hides his real goal, which is to give corporations more power.
I love how a lot of people in this you'll see, because I've already watched this once, but a lot of people you'll see, they just like run at it.
Have a slight issue with
some of them just don't even try.
the back end of the premise. I guess Trump's attacks on DEI being a real goal to, give corporations more power. I'd rather center the conversation around the democratic, especially as conservatives, the issues that people have with DEI and why I believe Trump would, want to support the issues that, people are voting for him for.
I mean, I'm talking about his whole attack on DEI. It's actually DEIA, right? You know that.
Right.
In government agencies. The A being for accessibility.
Right. Yeah, and I think the attack on DEI isn't an attack on people's protections. It's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Wanting to end DEI doesn't want to end protections for someone being disabled, someone being inaccessible to
Actually,
get into a
it
job.
does.
It rather wants
It's
to
just not saying
de-incentivize
it
corporations to push them to hire these people on unfair bases, right?
Okay, but DEIA is not about quotas or anything like that. It is about protections for people within these organizations, or to make sure that you have different communities that have the opportunity to apply to these things.
Right.
So it can mean, within government agencies, it means things like, let's pay interns so that not only wealthy people can have their kids do internships in these agencies.
Right.
Or let's put out notices around different parts of town, metaphorically speaking, so that people know this job exists.
Right. This is where it begins, but this isn't the ultimate goal that conservatives have an issue with. Conservatives don't have an issue with trying to spread job applications to poorer communities.
Well,
so
then why rescind DEIA requirements in government agencies?
Because the problem with DEIA is there may not be like perceived actual number quotas, but that's what it devolves into, and especially with corporations,
Do you have the evidence of that?
I mean, sure, we can look at corporations that are.
There's no
agencies that are
evidence for
hiring
it. All
people
these
on
kids
not true proper bases. We can
are
even look at,
speaking from zero research.
That's happening?
Yeah, even the DNC's nomination of Kamala as president.
It's
there
just
was
the
no
stuff that
reason
they
to
have
nominate
swiped
Kamala.
through on
She
fucking
wasn't
TikTok.
democratically selected. She wasn't. She didn't go through a single primary. None of these things.
So you're saying that Kamala was the vice president of the United States after the president drops out 2 months before the convention. You think that's a DEI
She wasn't
hire?
Every presidential nominee is democratically selected to be the nominee for that
Do
party,
you realize
except
there were
for
not
Kamala
even
Harris.
primaries prior to 1972
Well,
in
sure,
the Democratic
but
Party?
this isn't before 1972.
Well, I understand, but what did you think you were going to run primaries in those 2 months?
Well,
I mean,
sure,
Joe Biden should have dropped out
even
3 years
even
ago, as far as I'm
before,
concerned.
well, sure, but even before, when Kamala was running in primaries, she didn't. She wasn't the next man up. None of this. She wasn't the next
That
person.
doesn't matter.
Right, of
She
course,
was
but
chosen.
She wasn't in primaries.
Detail. But
Right.
Hold up. She was chosen to be the vice president. I may not approve of her having been the vice president or Joe Biden to begin with. But the way we vote on presidential candidates, they pick a vice president who we all understand and we all vote with the intention that Should the president be unable to perform the duties of the office, their vice president can take their place and become a president. This is what we have all agreed upon. So, in my opinion, and a lot of political commentators, is that if the vice presidential candidate is put in place to become the presidential candidate, whether there are primaries or not, whether the Democratic Party chose to, keep the stranglehold and hide all this stuff about Biden and everything else, that is not an issue. It is not a problem to sit here and say that she could not be the presidential candidate. I'm not going to say that I don't think that we should have had plenty of, actual debates before we even got to Joe Biden stepping down. We should have had primaries. We should have never sat back and said, you know what, let's just let Joe Biden do his thing. Because he promised us in 2020 that he was going to be a one-term president. And he fucking lied to us. And no matter what good he did for our country, he lied. I don't like that. Simple as that. He also used our tax dollars to okay the genocide that is happening in Gaza. So if you're here and you've never been here before and you know nothing about me, know that I do not approve of the vast majority of presidents that we've had in this country. So let's continue.
Listen, aside from, I would have, might have wanted a different candidate as well. But that has nothing to do with Trump rescinding orders that basically say you need to search for a wide range of candidates, not necessarily give any different benefits, but you need to make sure different communities have access to the awareness of this job. You need in your office accessibility for people who have physical handicaps.
Sure.
If you have folks who identify as as trans, you need to make it at least hospitable and not. This is all non-discriminatory stuff. That's what this is all about.
But you're cherry picking the portions of DEI that even conservatives don't have issues. Conservatives don't have issues with making workplaces.
The whole DEI apparatus within our government was a function of doing exactly what I said. Had nothing to do with quotas.
It is unfortunate that those things get taken out, and there might not have been specific numerical quotas.
What else was he trying to take out?
It's trying to take out people getting jobs that don't deserve those jobs. People getting pushed into positions they have no qualification.
There is no evidence of what you just said happening in these government agencies.
That's not true at all. I mean, we're not allowed to sit here and have notes and numbers to pull up for you. You can't,
give me one example.
You can't ask me to.
I love Sam.
I'm not,
give me
I'm
one
not able
example.
To sit here and look on a computer
Just
for
one.
You, but these are.
Give me one example.
Conservatives.
Sorry, you've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Sam.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Okay, so I think the roots issue with DEI isn't what the previous gentleman was trying to point. Conservatives aren't necessarily have issues with those things like accessibility to people who might need help. The issue is, and I kind of referred to this before, when you have agencies and systems, what tends to happen when you have government overreach, big government, is that agencies and systems get abused. And I think unequivocally, DEI was heavily abused in practice. It was great in theory.
How?
It's idealistic,
How?
which is sure.
How
sure
has
is fine,
DEI
that a lot of people can get behind, but
been
it was abused in a lot of ways. When you have actors, we're in California right now, when you have actors, white male actors who are being told, we do not want white men, we're not gonna cast any white men, we only want this particular kind of I guess I don't understand
why
right?
this
that is an abuse
man
of a system. It's no longer fair,
is
but
discussing
more about
it. Like, look at Sam.
perpetuating
Sam's looking at him
one
like, are you
aspect
fucking
of
serious?
visual compelling aspects, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is companies are going to say, well, we want to look the most diverse.
Okay,
and what that is it's moral grandstanding. It's like, because we have more black women,
No, it's
we're
not.
better, we
No,
sell better
it's
soda.
not.
Like that.
I got you.
That is not.
Well, that's getting a little far afield from what Trump's DEI orders are. But I can tell you, as somebody who was a sitcom actor in the 90s, I would walk into a room and everybody I would see would look like me. And I was doing a second position, which doesn't even exist anymore, where you do 2 pilots a year. And I was looking around basically every part of television when I was a kid. I was centered in some fashion. It was either this is about my mother, or this is about my father, or someone like me was centered. So, we can argue as to whether or not Hollywood is overcorrected in some fashion. But on a governmental level, the DEIA directives that agencies were following for the past 4 years, there's nothing, I don't know what you mean by abuse on it, but there is no evidence that it was an affirmative action program in those instances.
Okay. I don't know if anybody in here has any clue what DEI really means. What it means is that you are to promote the jobs. This is the government side, at least, not necessarily a business side. But on the government side, it means that you cannot just promote the jobs to rich white people. You cannot just promote the jobs to your buddy down the street. It means you have to go out and you have to send the job notice to areas of everywhere. And then you have to actually find the best candidate from a larger pool of candidates. How is it bad to create a larger qualified pool of candidates? It's not like people who are unqualified for these jobs are applying for these jobs and getting them. Please understand this. It's disgusting that you don't think that that's the case.
It was about anti-discrimination. You cannot discriminate against these people, and you want to open up opportunities for a broad swath of people. Again, the internship is like one of the most material things that exist there, where the idea that you need to pay interns. And that's important because you want low-income people to have the same sort of like opportunities to see these things as wealthy people. My kids can maybe afford to do an internship for the summer instead of going to get a job.
I think what's happening is we're talking about 2 different things.
But I'm talking about Trump's DEIA rescission is a way of basically driving people out of these agencies, making it
you're saying Trump specifically, and I understand why you're saying Trump, but I think the American people as a whole have kind of, and I won't say whole because obviously it's not 100%, but a majority of the American people have kind of rejected DEI because, again,
I don't think a majority of Americans know what DEIA is.
That may be the case.
Exactly.
But again, my point is we're talking about abuse of a system. What you're talking about is not necessarily what was happening. What people were seeing were, hey, because you're white, you can't do this.
No.
And liberals like to do this thing where they create systems, and then they created the whole idea of woke, and then they backed away, and then conservatives say woke, and then they're like, well, we don't know what woke is. They created DEI. Biden literally said Kamala Harris is being chosen because she is a black woman, and then all of a sudden, Democrats for the rest of that said that's not why she was chosen, even though Biden literally.
No. He did not pick Kamala Harris specifically because she was a black woman. He stupidly said that he was going to pick an African American woman for his vice presidential candidate. Just so happens that Kamala Harris just happens to be the pigeonhole for that one. Let's continue.
literally said that, and then we have this
No.
have this cognitive dissonance as if we're not.
I love
living in
these
reality.
idiots just shaking their
wanted to
heads
make
and
sure
like,
that there was-
he
there was
owned
an
the lib.
opportunity
He
for
owned the
black women
lib.
to
Oh my
be
God,
vice
everybody,
versa.
he owned the lib.
So why?
Oh,
so
look
why
at
did
him.
Democrats
He's
move away
owning him.
from that and
He's
say, no,
owning
it
him. Oh
wasn't
my
because
God.
she
Oh
was a
my
black
God.
woman?
Oh my
So
God. He's owning him.
My point is
It's
that.
not because she's a black woman.
But that's what they said. I can agree that it's not because she's a black woman, but that's what they said. Why did they say that then?
No, because there are plenty of black women, right? Like, he could have picked anybody, but he picked specifically her. You're positing the idea that there wasn't a black woman who would have been qualified for that position.
No,
and I
that's not
don't
what we're saying.
believe that.
No, that's not what conservatives aren't saying, that there aren't, because again, even in the Republican Party right now, and in Trump's cabinet, there are people of color that Democrats pretend don't exist, like J.D. Vance's wife, and
She's not a
Vance's wife is not in the cabinet.
No, but if J.D. Vance was a Democrat, his wife would be lauded all over everything because of her color of her skin.
I'm not here to defend the Democrats' choice on every policy, but there is one party in this country that is identitarian. There is one party that is represented and it is homogenous, and it is the Republican Party. 85% of Republicans are white. That's just
Preach,
the
Sam.
reality.
Preach, brother.
So hold on. But here's the thing. You said even if let's just say, okay, that's true. 80% of Republicans are white. Does that mean that they're less moral? That they can't run an effective government?
What
does race have to do? What does race have to do? Hold on. What does race?
What does morality have to do with it? I just.
Trump didn't have to
What
say,
does
my
race
vice
have to
president's
do?
going to be a white male.
No.
Because they all knew it was going to
No,
be.
this is the premise of DI. What does race have to do with running an effective
Sam has
government?
way
On
more
the
control
micro
than I
I'll tell you
do.
right now.
DI on the micro level at McDonald's.
I'll tell you.
Am I
You
going to
ask me a
get better
question.
nuggets?
Listen, I'll ask you a question.
If the cashier is black or white, what does that have to do with
What
anything?
the
I'll tell you what it is.
fuck?
First of all, DEIA means that if you come into this agency or corporation, you're not going to be discriminated against because you don't look like everybody else, or you don't have the same physical abilities as everybody else, or you may require handles on the bathroom or whatever it is. That's what DEIA does. But does it make a government better if there's a broad representation of the people it's supposed to govern? Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless of DEI, don't we already have things in our Constitution that protects people's rights, protects people?
No.
We don't?
No.
Do we,
No.
or do we not?
No, we do not. Tell me.
There are no
Tell me
actual.
what protects
Oh my
people from
God.
discrimination in housing and in work and hiring?
Get 'em,
or getting
Sam.
loans?
Get
It's
'em.
all statutes. Get 'em. All statutes. And in these government agencies, there was nothing except for that order. That's why Trump just rescinded it.
I'm gonna tap out because I think someone else has a better can defend that point specifically better than me.
All right, please return to your seat.
I just pointed at the person that I hope takes my seat.
Hi.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How you doing?
Okay, when it comes to DEI, essentially, if a person was not racist, he would hire someone regardless, right? So why would we need a policy to protect a person if we've moved past racism?
Have
So
we?
would you consider yourself racist?
Wait, are you suggesting we've moved past racism?
Would you consider yourself racist?
I consider myself, and sometimes I think we all practice some form of, white supremacy. I think actually we all do to some degree.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. So I guess going to the LGBT topic, it seems like it's very prevalent for you as an issue.
Well, it seems like a big issue. I mean, the Republican Party spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people.
That they
Well, the
did.
reason why they've done something like that, and I think you're misconstruing the narrative, they haven't demonized them. They simply want protections back for their own children, because children are being stripped away from
Who's
their
their
parents.
own children? Wait,
Parents?
children are being stripped away from their parents?
Yes, due to AB 954, they've now included gender identity as a premise to remove and strip parental rights for children who maybe they are rejecting their gender ideology.
So, but you'd be okay with parents who agree with their children's doctors to provide gender-affirming care?
I do not agree with that. Do you?
I believe that parents and doctors can make those decisions with the kids,
If
of
a
course.
child can't smoke, drink, or have sex before the age of 18, they should not be able to consent to a sex change. Now, in
Well,
terms of a
I don't know that
DEI
they can,
initiative, the reason why there's military bans on trans women and trans men is because they do not have the ability to cooperate at a mental capacity when they're constantly undergoing hormone treatment, as well as depression pills, as well as different.
Okay. Real fucking quick. In this community right here, trans rights are human rights. That's it. And if you start gender affirming care before you have even hit puberty, your body will end up with zero advantages of being the male musculature or the female. There's no difference by that point. There is, in my understanding, absolutely no hormonal imbalances to the extent that this young man is describing, where someone in the military would be unfit to serve because they are transgender. It's insane. And then he also seems to think that we're just chopping up kids left and right. No, we do not perform surgeries other than top surgeries before they are full-fledged adults. And usually we don't even want them to have that done until after they are 25 when their brains have fully developed. But I digress.
Mood stabilizer pills. And so when you go out to combat, do you really think you're going to bring an ice cooler pack with your whether that be hormone, estrogen, or whatever it may be, while you're about to shoot someone of the opposing war?
Well, the executive orders that Trump gave were DEIA orders that had to do with agencies that have nothing to do with the military.
Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do.
The FDA, they just revoked the ability of the Air Force to teach Air Force members about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yep.
Well,
Like,
we're not-
Why?
What are we talking about here?
Okay, well,
Honestly, like they're rewriting history.
well, that's your perspective, right? But at the end of the day, if a person
That's not a
Tuskegee Airmen, we
perspective.
can all agree
okay,
existed,
just
right?
listen to this. If you were racist, right, and you were an employee.
Okay, this is one thing that scares the fucking shit out of me. And I'm going to say it every minute of every fucking day. We have computers in our fucking pockets. Yes, we call them cell phones, but they are computers. Use the fucking things for more than TikTok. Do some fucking research. Look into some shit. See if any of the stuff that you're being told is exactly what you think and you believe. Find out if it is 100% true. Instead of just sucking on the teat of whoever your fucking mistress or master could possibly be when you're a right-wing psycho. God damn it.
Employer. And if you wanted to absolutely be racist and exercise that, you would. I think DEI sort of prevents people from seeing the reality. If a person truly wanted to.
I'm going to tell you right now, this white boy right here in the fucking beard, I would knock him out in Minecraft. For real. In Minecraft, me and him would go blow to blow. He reminds me of every single evangelical fundamentalist Christian that I have ever met, and hipster douche college kid that thinks they know better than everyone else. And part of why I want to watch this is because I want to. He made me so mad when I was listening to this earlier.
To hire you based on your intellect, based on your skill set, they would. DEI essentially
No, they won't.
provides tax cuts.
No, they won't.
For the end of the year, when you create your tax returns, they give you a tax credit for hiring someone who is black or a person of color. I don't know if you knew that.
In these agencies?
In agencies and private
In government
businesses.
agencies, they don't get tax cuts for hiring people.
Why
And
would
the other
anyone
thing I
think
wanted
that
to-
a government
the other thing I
agency
wanna
is getting a
discriminate.
tax cut?
The other thing I want to kind
How could you simply think in your mind that a government agency is getting a tax break for hiring someone of a different ethnicity or a different skin color or a differently abled body if somebody's in a wheelchair? Are you saying that you think that a government agency that is funded by tax dollars is getting tax write-offs for hiring these people? Just Jesus fucking Christ, people, use your goddamn fucking brains. And you believe in God, right? If you believe in God, then God gave you a fucking brain. Use the motherfucking brain that God gave you. Fuck.
Kind of state here is that I've realized that a lot of the times with the liberals is that you guys push for example, for DEI and people of Latino or Hispanic descent. And a lot of the times what you don't realize is you're actually doing more harm than good by putting them in positions where you make them believe that it's based on the color of their skin. It's based on...
DEIA does not is not.
It's based on merit. DEI emphasizes color, skin color,
No,
physical
it
attributes.
says that the people who work in your agency, it's about anti-discrimination.
Discrimination against what?
Against people who may have different cultural mores, may have different.
But that's irrelevant to a job, right? It should be
that
based
kid
on
back
merit.
there too.
And that is the emphasis
People
here.
get
These
hired
kids,
as
these
a
are the
merit, but if
entitled
you're- if
pricks
you're- if the
that everybody seems to think that Zennials are. Guess what? They're right-wing fucking pricks. They have gone right down the motherfucking pipeline and become right-wing fucking psychos. MAGA is a cult. When your own fucking cult leader is hurting you, you still believe that the cult leader has your best interests at heart. Oh, you're in a fucking cult.
Not if you
excuse
get
me,
a tax
if the
cut.
DEIA, I'm talking about Trump's rescission of
If
these
you
orders
received a
on
tax
these
cut as
agencies.
an employer, wouldn't you hire a person of color?
Dude,
If you could pay them less?
listen, we're talking about government agencies that do not get tax cuts. They don't, government agencies,
They don't.
no,
Yes,
these
they
are,
do. They absolutely do.
I'm talking about
Every
parts of-
private and public sector gets tax cuts when you hire a person of color.
Government agencies don't pay taxes. Government agencies operate on, are funded by the government.
That is not true. That is not true. And you know what? I think the whole juxtapose of this entire conversation.
What month is this?
This is January.
Okay, so we can agree on that. The FDA does not pay taxes. It does not get a tax cut because it doesn't pay taxes.
Ding.
DEIA.
Ding, 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 ding. Hey, what's up?
as an
Hello,
agency
welcome
to say if you
to
have
the
a job
chat.
opening, you must
How are you this
do
evening?
your best efforts to make sure that every
I like the
that.
handle.
I love
Bob
the
Marley,
buzzword,
number one.
You must do your
Hell
best
yeah.
effort. I love that buzzword.
Okay,
Because you
pause.
feel
I
like
would-
you have to, you're pressured to.
yes.
That
You
guy.
shouldn't be pressured to hire someone based on skin color.
No, not to hire someone on skin color, but put up notice about what the.
I hope you be
that the
kind enough
job
to follow
exists.
if
Make
you
sure that
enjoy
put
the
it in different
content that we
communities so that
are
you have as wide an application pool as possible.
And therefore you
intaking.
get
All
tax
right.
cuts.
That would be
All right,
appreciated.
return
But
to
if
the
you
end
don't like it, it's all good. I
understand.
understand.
For hiring someone who speaks a
Please
different
return to your
language or
seat.
different skin color.
I don't know how to respond to that.
No one can. This kid.
How you doing?
So I want a little bit more clarification because I don't even know if we got it yet on which part benefits corporations, like from your
Okay,
perspective.
so agencies, the U.S. government agencies, the vast majority of them, what they function to do is inhibit corporations from essentially externalizing their costs onto society.
Sure.
So the example would be, I used it before, but it's a good one. I'm making Teflon, C8, for instance, okay? And C8 is supposed to be burned because instead of like depositing, because it's a forever chemical. And I can go out and instead of burning it, it's too expensive to burn it, I'm going to dump it into a river. And the EPA comes in and says, like, you can't do that. We're going to fine you. You're not allowed to do this. But what the company is doing when they do that is they're going to take the profits that come with lowering their costs by dumping it into the river, and those costs are then borne by everybody who lives around that river. They're going to get cancer, they're going to get gastrointestinal problems, whatever it is.
It's true.
And society bears the cost of that.
Oh, this dude's a genius.
Because it sounds like we're talking about something completely different.
And so the DEIA stuff is just the beginning of demoralizing these agencies and trying to wreck them from the inside. It's all part of like Russell Vought's thing, the OMB, the whole Schedule F, where they get rid of civil servants and they demoralize people and they don't want them to be able to function.
So then would you agree, if this is about demoralizing, I mean, over 75 million people voted for Trump, right? He won the popular vote. Do you not think that in part, you even said yourself that Americans don't really know what DEIA is, according to your definition of it?
Well, the government's definition of it.
Okay, well, I would argue that the average American is demoralized by what they've seen, the way that the government goes about their DEI policies and the military and other organizations, not just the military.
Okay. Just so we're clear, how many actual people have seen anything in the news, in real life, anecdotally? Anything that has been a harm by the government's DEI initiatives of making sure that we find the best candidates from any walk of life. Be they white, rich, male, female, transgender, fucking... I mean, as long as they are able to perform the job, that's all that matters. I don't see that DEI has done any... I keep trying to make this, because they have turned DEI into a slur. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I can never remember what the A stands for, accessibility or whatever. They've turned that into a slur. So all of these initiatives, all they were doing is verifying that you're not just picking your buddy down the street. You're not only advertising the job to the white kids at Harvard or the white men at MIT or whatever. It meant that you had to show that you were actually advertising it to other people, a diverse group of people. We're not saying that these people were not qualified to do the jobs to begin with. What they are saying is that the people that are qualified to do the job already, we are going to build a much larger pool with which to choose from so that you will actually get the most qualified candidate instead of just John Smith from my frat brothers fraternity, even though I've never known the guy, but he was in the same fraternity as me, and he's white, so it's okay.
Please return to your seat.
Okay.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is
Ethical
an app
reacts.
and website
I
that is
don't-
on a mission to raise the bar
I
on
don't-
journalism in a time
I don't
of
fuck
media
with
bias
this
and mistrust. Their team of
channel.
journalists believe that
I don't
unbiased
subscribe
news
to
should be the
Jubilee.
standard and not just the exception.
So I
they
really
report
don't
down the
care,
middle with
but
facts,
I'm still
delivering
gonna
news
be
without bias, filter, or spin.
ethical.
Plus, their Media Mist tool allows you to discover news
I
that's
just
being
rolled my eyes a little
underreported
bit.
or
If you
not even
couldn't see.
reported at all by different sides sides of mainstream media. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. The work they're doing gives us a complete picture of the news straight from our phones and tablets with their app. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel, you're also supporting a group of journalists that are raising the bar on news and focusing on serving you unbiased, straight facts. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now let's get into it.
My next claim is, unless you're a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
Like, what do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic relief? They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut when they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's going to be the OMB head, he was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up Project 2025.
When you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals,
this kid
so that
right
they're
here
not
never
being able to
gets
make sure that the
in there, I
agencies
don't
are
think.
working. Who
I was
gets the
listening,
profits from that?
but
It's
I did
corporations.
listen to
They're going
this
to go
earlier.
after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is for them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of, like, people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of, like, we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
It's good.
They're like, we don't like you, black boy. Get out of there, son. I hate white people.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so
That's right.
I would like to touch on the
I hate
religious
white
fundamentalist
people,
aspect.
and I'm
Are
a
you an
cracker.
atheist?
I'm a
That's
Reformed
right.
Jew. I don't.
Hi.
I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Same.
Okay, so what's wrong
I'm
with
agnostic.
the religious fundamentalists? So, like, you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a consequentialist? Utilitarian?
I
like,
don't
come on,
really,
man.
bother myself with
No.
being a consequentialist.
Trust me.
or
I
an
hate white
utilitarian.
people
It's always going to
because
reduce you to a preference. So if
we
you say that killing is
are
wrong
the
and I say it's right,
minority
you would really have no
in-
contention with that.
Well, no.
Hold up. We're the true minority in the global scheme of things. There's about 6 to 8% of the global population that is actually white. We are the genetic mutation, and we have tried to claim superiority over brown people or any different ethnic belief or religious beliefs because we have been scared and we have acted like we are superior because our skin is white. Nah, brother. Trust me. We are not special. There's nothing special about us. And I hate on white people just as much as I hate the rest of humanity. But that does not mean that I do not want the complete and total best for every single person that is on this planet and will be on this planet after I am gone. I want us to excel. I want us to become better. I want us to actually gain knowledge every single day. I want us to become what we see us being able to be in these science fiction stories and things like that. We say we want that, but yet we make these religious kooks and these greedy oligarchs and robber barons make us believe that they're going to save humanity. How are you saving humanity by trying to go to a dead planet called Mars? How is that saving humanity? Save the planet you're on right now, motherfucker. Do the real thing. Do the work here. Stop accumulating wealth for just accumulation's greed's sake. You could solve poverty. Global poverty could be solved overnight. There are 16 million units of housing in this country that are empty. There are not that many homeless people. Just saying. It's called do fucking research. Use the computer that you have in your pocket at all times. Let it be more than just a tracking device for the corporation that you are paying to track you and sell your data for their profit. Just saying.
No, I don't base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society. Okay. We have laws that we have decided as a society in a democratic way. And for some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean it would be
morally right under your view.
Not morally right.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not talking about morals.
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off of.
I believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates. You have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple.
Hold up. Oh. He just said that the only way that two men can have a child is if they take from a healthy straight couple. Excuse me, but if you live in the fucking United States of America, you know for a fact that our fucking foster care system is fucked. And that every single goddamn child that is in this foster care system has massive fucking issues in life. I know for a fact, and I have had multiple friends that have been in the foster care system. It is fucking disgusting. And not only that, not every goddamn person who has a fucking child should be able to actually raise that fucking child. But if you have two perfectly loving, consenting adults that can raise that child in a healthy environment, guess what? That's better for them than just saying, nope, just force them to have their fucking kids. Fuck that shit. I am so sick of this goddamn fucking, oh God, homosexuality is not right by God. Tell me in the fucking New Testament where it says anything against homosexuality. I'll wait, but I'll be watching this.
Provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people
They
being
pay
married?
them.
It's not that I have a problem. I just don't see a justification for why they ought to.
And they
be
don't
gay
like-
outside of it. It just feels good.
They don't like that homosexuals, be they, lesbian or gay couples, can pay women to carry babies for them. They don't want that shit. They don't want IVF to be allowed anymore. They want to get rid of that. The only way they want babies in this fucking country is if they are white and they are fucking forced upon the women. They don't care. They're trying to take the voting rights away from the fucking married women. If you change your name when you get married, you will no longer be able to vote in this fucking country. They're doing everything they can to dismantle democracy. And you had that fucker in the fucking scene of the crime where people literally stormed the Capitol on live television. And he's in there just saying all sorts of stupid shit. And these people are clapping and just hooting and hollering about, oh, yeah, we fucking did it. We're fucking great. We're number one. Woo! Go Trump. It's a goddamn cult. Period. This motherfucker is going to hurt all of his constituents. They're going to feel it a lot fucking more than I'm going to feel it here in a blue state. They're going to be fucked. And guess what? They're still going to fucking rationalize it in their fucked up cult brain that their leader, their dear fucking cult leader, is still going to make it work for them. He didn't hurt us. He's got our best interest at heart. We love the leader. Fuck that shit. God damn it.
Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay, what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided.
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well, I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than.
Okay,
than
so you're okay
preying on
with a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well?
No, they don't even
Incest.
know.
No.
If they
They don't want the 1950s because the 1950s, guess what they don't like about the 1950s? Unionization and union participation was fucking huge, which is what led to the corporate and the economic boom of the middle class that brought about everything that they praise. But what they really want is the 1890s, the Gilded Age. Look it up. When William McKinley was the president. What they want is when your children were the ones that were going to be working and they let you sit at home and starve. Because child labor was better off. Children lost fingers, hands. People died all the time. They used to fucking bid deaths into contracts for construction jobs up until OSHA was implemented. In the 1970s, I, being a journeyman electrician, working in the construction field, know that that's totally fucked. That you would bid people dying by, okay, this is an $11 million project. All right, we're going to lose 3 fucking guys on this job because we're not going to do anything safe. Fuck them. Fuck you. That is where we are at. It is all about corporate America making the fucking money, and fuck you as a worker. Eat your own shit is what they would let you fucking do. Oh, wait, that's right. They said that the EPA can't stop more shit from being in your fucking water.
consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's not beneficial.
Right, there's duties and obligations that we have. So religion provides those duties. Life isn't about
No!
and exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine
No,
on me,
because
and
you
I
just
don't want
admitted
that.
you just admitted
No.
we need duties. We have responsibility.
What
as a
does he mean
society
by
to keep
duties?
us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does.
No, that
So
is
what's your
not the
argument?
fucking case.
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to? Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is, like, you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so
Exactly.
we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist,
Yes, which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage
Yes.
under this.
Sorry, we're going to
And
have
so
more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better
Trans
education.
people, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be.
They should be
secondary to
straight?
their husbands.
They
Women
should just be
submit
straight.
To the husbands.
Women
That doesn't
should
mean
submit to the
that doesn't mean they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
It doesn't
no,
mean they are
I
slaves. It means
understand.
they are
I
protected.
understand. You
Okay,
gotta
let me ask you
have-
then. Let me ask you.
No.
Should
I
women
want
be
you-
drafted?
listen,
Should women be drafted?
Listen, I think
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
I think this is the vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second. I don't want my life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but
we
I
see,
don't want to live in a
My final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see
No,
people deviate
we've
from that,
never
that's where
had
the
that.
problems
All
arise.
right,
I
pause.
think you are at home in the Trump. Trump
Thank you very
world.
much.
You've been voted out.
I
Please
think
return
you
to
are
your
home
seat.
in the Trump world. Fair point.
Sorry, guys. I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion, is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology like all ideologies are. It's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, Eleazar, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be. But others
Yeah, this is
will
not
be
what I
happy
was
about it.
signed
I
up
think it's
for.
unfair as well
Should
to
not be a
label any morals
theocracy.
that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Like having a theocracy is something different than having.
I think love thy neighbor is a
Sure.
good precept,
Right.
and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept.
Cool.
I think there are things from religion that are good.
Yeah.
I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be. Is like a knife. It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people. But that
Yep,
doesn't mean
that's
that
a
I
good
want
fucking
religious
thought.
doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy, and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of like religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate.
I'm shocked they
in this
haven't
country.
voted
That's
him
my-
out
my
yet.
sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he is a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any other religion is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine. I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy and civil society.
And I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way
How?
that you
How is religious
we can have a
doctrine
debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to men. I don't think they should be, and in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is religious truth and what isn't religious truth. That's not how religious truth itself works, and that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either. Right?
I don't know.
Fundamentalist Christians make me laugh, and evangelicals make me laugh because they don't actually know their religion. They don't actually partake of the Bible. They pick and choose. A lot of them, what they like to do is just pray on what God wants them to read that day, and then they flip open the Bible and just start reading random sections. It's a fucking story. You got to read it to get context. Without context, all you're getting is whatever the religious leader decided that he wanted to tell you from what he interpreted from his readings of that Bible. Use your brain. God gave it to you for a reason, even as I believe, because I am an agnostic.
Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world. I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we can disagree on that.
Yeah, we don't take...
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public, kissing in public.
Oh, God,
law
no,
against it, just your own opinion.
No, God, I don't want to watch
So these are all people's opinions, right?
two
The same way you
homosexuals
have your opinions about Christians,
kiss
the same way these
lovingly
people
in
are-
public,
I don't have a problem
but it's
with
okay
Well-
for straight people to fucking mac out in public in a fucking line at Disney World as long as they're fucking white. That's the shit I've seen. That's anecdote. But guess what? I guarantee if we discussed it with a lot of others, we would find out that they all feel the same way. That if it was a white couple and they were making out in a line in full view of children, like hands on the ass, fucking grinding and shit, nobody would say a thing. But I guarantee you if there was a group of white people and they saw a couple of color or a homosexual couple just kissing normally, they'd freak out. Because white people always feel stronger when there's a bunch of other white people around. Wonder what that means.
You do not believe that theology should be at its
We should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is, I think that Christianity, I'm a Catholic, I think that Christianity
Lucky you.
is, I think, fundamentally very important to instill family values.
Lucky you. You are a Catholic who is part of the awesome pedophilia conspiracy hiding all, and it's not a theory, it's a real conspiracy. They have actively moved pedophilic priests to different fucking dioceses to keep them going because they don't want to lose their priests, because instead of just allowing priests to be married, you know, they would rather have pedophiles. Catholicism, great fucking faith.
Values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about.
I'm okay with that too.
Let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. What you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age.
That does not
How many
happen.
children?
There is no castration happening to children at such a young age that is causing irreparable damage before they are the age of 18 and of adult consensual age. Let's continue.
Are treated over the past 5 years, let's say. I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but
Tell
I'm
me.
curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers
I
are.
promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
not
you
playing this
think it's
game.
no, I am playing this game because I think you think it's much higher.
Get it,
When
Sam.
You tell me that kids are being castrated. I know you don't really know what these numbers are, and I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much.
What?
It was reported that scientifically, every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal because
Studies
of it.
on
They're
this-
actually more depressed.
Studies on this subject often suffer from researcher bias and methodological errors, including inadequate follow-up, imprecise measurement, and poorly chosen sample bases. Doctors agree more research is needed. And also, the real actual regret rate is about 3%, I believe. And that's even for ones who have gone through actual, like, sex change operations.
Because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
How
by the
many over
way.
the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me.
Tell me.
Just give
I
me
know
a
what you're trying to do.
ballpark.
You're trying to put me in this chokehold of like,
No, I'm
I
not trying to
gotcha
put you in a
moment.
check. No,
No.
this is definitely a gotcha
No.
moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal, you know, Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know
medical coverage.
one person has had that surgery.
I don't
ever.
understand how my
But-
taxes
okay.
should go for an inmate
Okay,
prisoner
if
who
you
wants
have
to
a-
transition.
Well, I think because we got to do health care for
No,
prisoners,
Gavin
and you
Newsom-
don't consider
Gavin
it real
Newsom-
health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I
Newsom
don't want
has
to get.
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
That is a lot of
received
children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
547 just
Do you know how
passed,
many,
including
do you know how
gender
many kids
identity,
died during
gender
COVID?
identity
All right.
to allow children
10
to be
kids a
separated from
month
their parents
die
just
from
due to not
accidental
affirming
gun,
their gender
gun deaths.
identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump how is he hurting these people? He just
Data compiled by Reuters and the health technology company Komodo found that from 2017 to 2021, 4,780 adolescents started puberty blockers and had a gender dysphoria diagnosis. A new study from JAMA Pediatrics found that only 0.1% of young patients in the study were transgender and prescribed puberty blockers or hormone therapy. 0.1%. That is not even a percentage point. It is 1/10 of a percentage point.
rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated.
Are
Hold on.
you for trans
You're
people
asking-
being discriminated
so
with
I'm
housing?
very passionate about that question, and can I answer it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I believe that affirmative action should be.
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless,
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well, hold
saying
on.
you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic, not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
on their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need if you need to, then you should. If you need to, then
Right,
you should.
so we have a disagreement. I don't believe people should
God.
be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination.
My head
it's
hurts.
based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
Oh yeah, you own Sam so hard. Oh God, owning those libs. Ugh.
Hi.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order,
Okay. I am going to preface this woman with she was at the beginning of the video. She was the like clickbait issue. I fully believe that she says the shit that she says, knowing that somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to be like, oh, hey, cool, a new right-wing, white, blonde grifter lady with some xenophobic, nationalist bullshit to spout. Let's get her a fucking podcast. Let's continue.
needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is
And
just
congratulations.
and thank you. And yeah, I think
These idiots have
what
no
we're seeing
idea
right
what's
now
coming.
is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like
Oh, yeah? Really?
Should we mandate people reproduce?
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
So you want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw
I think it would
abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so like, sure.
All right, I mean,
I don't believe
this,
in
I think,
divorce.
though,
What the fuck does that
reinforces
mean?
my point that
That mean
if you
you're gonna be a
are
cat lady?
It would be better for society. It would be better for
Christian theocrat,
everybody.
then
What up,
you
Rich
can have
Rain?
And same with xenophobic what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Don't you think that's better for Americans in general?
To be xenophobic, nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is the
based
dominant
on
culture?
European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White
It's rooted
Christian-
in European identity.
White, so you,
Yeah, I gotta say she's there to say this shit. Either she was given a script or she practiced this shit before she went to this. I almost feel like it's a full-on fucking plant by Jubilee to just have something to use for clickbait. I could be wrong, but I kind of doubt it that I am. I tend to be right on this shit.
so your argument is
That has been the dominant culture.
just to be
and
clear-
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture's so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America.
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting
no.
means?
No, it doesn't
And
mean
now
you're
instead we're saying there's something
to
wrong
the
with
dominant
xenophobia.
culture.
The
No.
dominant.
I mean,
What is
look,
dominant?
I gotta be honest with
That
you,
is,
you and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice.
This chick makes me
I think what you're expressing, though, is
just saying that
really
shit
what
and trying to
Trump,
sound serious
movement
about it
at its
makes me
heart is about.
throw
And
up
I
my
think that's
mouth.
I mean, I
problematic.
disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social
So you
issues.
don't think that he's conservative
I-
Oh,
enough for
here
you?
comes I bet
definitely.
vote
Nowhere
11. I
close.
can't remember how
He's
this
not
went.
xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them
No
out,
one,
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus
No,
Christ,
I mean,
assimilation is not what
I
you
think
want.
you're
I mean,
making
what
my
are we, the
argument
fucking
for me.
Borg here?
All right.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just saying he's not even in the...
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm going to shit my pants. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yay. I'm so fucking excited. I don't give a fuck. Emma Vigeland, Sam's co-host on the Majority Report, just fucking liked my comment on her fucking, liked my reply on her fucking post. Ah! I'm fanboying out. I don't give a fuck how anybody reacts to this. I am a fucking Majority Report stan, and I am losing my shit on fucking Twitter. Oh my God, I'm going to crap my pants. Hell yeah. That's exciting. All right, all right. My whole fucking day has been fucking officially perfect now. Yeah, that girl was
My
a
next
plant.
claim
She
is
was there
the
to say some
GOP
bullshit.
will destroy Social Security and health care.
Ooh, this is going to be a good one.
Nice to see you.
So.
Oh,
what
this
if-
kid. Oh.
So-
Ah, shit. Hold up. Hold up. Okay. Okay. I got too excited. This fucking kid. Okay. I'm 41, almost 42. This guy's a kid to me. The one that's about to take the chair. He reminds me of every white evangelical fundamentalist Christian college taught elitist fuck who thinks that the only way he's a libertarian. It's abundantly obvious because he thinks that the government should not help people at all. Even though in my mind, the government is the power and the will of the people. I would assume that's kind of what we thought we were setting up, right? And therefore, the will of the people is to take care of the people instead of taking care of the robber barons, instead of taking care of the fucking corporations who apparently, since Citizens United, are people. They have rights as people. Corporations. Yay. So yes, I despise this kid.
My next claim is the GOP will destroy Social Security and health care. Nice to see you.
So, what if
How are
Social
libertarians
Security
serious?
should go away?
Libertarians are not serious. They think that everything that happens is just God's will, and you should just go about your business. And if you're fucking killing somebody, well, God willed it. Basically, libertarians would be the Crusaders now. Like, back when they were fighting the Crusades in the Dark Ages. Yeah, libertarians would be the Crusaders. God wills it! God wills it! I take your land. God wills it. Fuck the government if they say that I can't take your land. Fuck you! I'm a libertarian.
That's my question to you.
I hate.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. And not only does it keep our elderly out of poverty, it's essentially a social insurance program that protects you if at the end of your life.
Okay. Quick fucking frame of reference. Sam is a hardcore Social Security wonk. He had his mother, and he had to help his mother in dealing with Social Security and dealing with her Medicare and all that stuff, and she recently passed away. This man knows his shit when it comes to Social Security. Let's just all know that before this gets any further.
You don't have enough money to survive.
For
And
right
so-
now, do you know that it's also the albatross around our generation's neck?
No, it isn't.
Okay, so
Let me just explain this.
well, you're
Let me
going to
explain
go
this to you.
back to lecturing me about Social
because-
Security.
Well,
we don't
that's
have.
what we're talking
we
about.
are,
Social
yeah,
Security.
Social Security is one of the top 3 funded.
Social Security is almost the biggest thing that our government does.
Exactly, and we are
it
more than
keeps
$30 trillion in debt.
2/3 of our, well, first of all, Social Security cannot contribute legally to the deficit.
Because they don't even account it in the federal deficit
That's
every year.
correct.
We have
because
30
it's
years. We're
self-funding. When Social Security started in 1936, you have more workers than retirees because people haven't entered into retirement. By 1970, it was at 3.5 to 1. Now it's at 2.5 to 1. But productivity has increased during that time, so the amount of money paid into Social Security has been up there. The reason why we are running out of money just for the trust fund, not for Social Security, like I say, if we do nothing with Social Security now, it is statutorily unable to contribute to the debt. The math is right there. The reason why the trust fund
What
is
was
running
that
out
look, bud?
is because wealth inequality has hoarded so much money.
In 1940, the ratio of covered workers to covered retirees was 159 to 1. Since 2010, the ratio has been below 3 to 1. Just as I keep trying to explain this to a lot of other people who don't want to seem to actually believe that this could be true, everybody sits out here and says, oh, the baby boomers, they're the largest generation ever. Oh, they're just going to totally fuck everything. Well, they are fucking everything. But guess what? Millennials, the largest generation ever, larger than the baby boom generation. Yet they also sit here and say that, oh, birth rates are down. Oh, well, guess what? There's tons and tons of us millennials that are paying for our lovely baby boomer, baby-brained retirees. There's plenty of us. Don't fucking worry about it. Get your head out of your ass. But let me tell you, millennials, we're not great, but we do have the power, and we are the ones that are coming of age to start taking power and affecting change. Stop letting them tell you that we don't have the power. Imagine if all of the workers in the entire global population of the workforce all just said, one day, let's not go to work. Who's that going to hurt? Is that going to hurt you, me, the guy down the street? Or is it going to hurt those 2,200 billionaires out there? What do you think? The ones that play with everything on the fucking stock market and gamble with our fucking livelihoods, and then they get the fucking bailouts from our fucking tax dollars. Anybody think that seems okay?
Money above the cap.
You don't think it's because
So
the
if you-
government does a
no.
terrible job managing their money?
No,
They have a huge
not at
spending
all.
problem.
Oh,
They go,
yeah,
look at all this
yeah,
money we have
They
for
knew this
Social
in
Security that's
1983.
earmarked for
40
60 years from now
ago.
that we're just going to spend on something
40
right
years
now.
ago, they predicted this. This is an actuarial table. Accountants sit there and look at it. This is a very easy math problem.
Accountants in the
If you-
government are always right? That's totally the thing that you're saying?
That they're always correct about money, right? That's why we have a $40 trillion debt problem.
The problem isn't the math with the 40 trillion debt problem. It's the you have tax
It's the
cuts and you
spending
spend-
problem. I totally
Yes.
agree with you, which
Social
I would argue is
Security-
part of why Social Security's gone in the hole already.
That's simply not true.
Oh, okay. So we're out of money from
If
the
the
Social
trust-
Security bucket.
No. Statutorily, by that I mean by law, Social Security pays for itself. If we do nothing, the 6.2% that your employer and your employee pays into it will pay out 78% of benefits starting in 2033.
And why is
But
it
if
going
we
down?
raise
If
the cap-
everything's so much better, why
if
is it
we
only
raise the
78%?
cap- If we raise the cap, there's a cap right now at $176,000. So for instance, if you
Employers and employees each pay 6.2% a year on up to $176,000 in income. Self-employed workers pay 12.4%. So if I own my own company or if I was a subcontractor, I would have to pay double because that's just me covering if I would possibly have an employee as well as me being an employer. That's what that fact check means.
You make $100,000, you pay $6,200 into that.
A year,
But
yeah.
A year. But if you make $4 million, do you know how much money you pay into Social Security?
Less than that.
$6,200.
And so why should wealthy
sh-
people hang on? Why should wealthy people pay a higher percentage?
No, they
No.
should pay the same percentage. 6.2 on $400,000, 6.2 on $1 million.
And why should they pay even more money at all?
Because
they make more money? Again, you
Yes.
fundamentally have this idea
progressive
that because
taxation.
Okay. This is the problem with Americans and the capitalist propaganda that they have been fed for the last 60, 70 years. We all assume that we're just down on our luck billionaires and millionaires. And heaven forbid that we actually tax the rich and make them pay the taxes that we charge them. Because, oh shit, maybe one day I'll be rich too. So we can't make that happen because I want to be able to fuck others when I get there too. Well, guess what? They closed the fucking door behind them, you fucking idiots. Get your goddamn head out of your asses and learn what is really going on. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about a motherfucker. They literally pay the right-wing podcast grifters and fucking freaks to tell you that they give a shit about you and to make you think that people that actually want to do things to benefit you instead of the corporate industrial military complex are the idiots, that we're dumb. I'm sorry to tell you, but guess what? We ain't tried real communism yet. Well, we've been doing capitalism for 400 fucking years, and it ain't fucking done shit for us. I think we should try something else. How about social democracy? Something. We need to change. But you know what? We need to build off of what our founding fathers did give us because they were enlightened men. They were not fucking Christian nationalists like these fucks, these MAGA cultists.
Okay, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society, we should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should they?
The highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy.
Hang on,
in this
does a
country?
billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course
it's
not. So why
insurance.
should they pay more?
I'll tell you why. Because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior. And the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage, is because it works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it
I don't
was?
know the exact number, but
If you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had in today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
no, it's
also
not.
The greatest expansion we had.
In 1955, individuals making more than $200,000, which would be the equivalent of $2.4 million today, or married couples with an income of more than $400,000, or the equivalent of $4.8 million today, were taxed at 91% at the highest tax bracket. So if they made up to $400,000, guess what? If they were a small business owner or a business owner and they weren't beholden to their stockholders, and they weren't a publicly traded company, if they invested the money after $400,000 back into their company, they were able to write that off on their taxes. Therefore, they paid their employees more. Therefore, they would actually improve the equipment that they were using. They would actually, maintain the equipment and keep people safe. I mean, it just makes sense.
Of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years until we realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us. So let me ask you real quick. So
Do you see Sam's face right now? Anybody? Does anyone see the look on Sam's face right here? You know what? I need to get a screen record on this shit. And I'm going to even... that went too far. Let's start right.
Why should they pay even more money at all? Because they make more money? Again, you fundamentally have this idea that because somebody... Okay, you have an idea that because somebody makes more money, that's fundamentally wrong, right?
No, I don't think it's fundamentally wrong. I think that they should pay more taxes into it. Now, I do think as a society... We should not allow billionaires. So, for instance,
they can pay more taxes generally, but why should they?
The highest tax rate was and the greatest expansion of our economy.
Hang on, does a
country?
Billionaire get more money from Social Security if they went to go take it than I would?
No,
of course not. So why should they pay more?
I'll tell you what. Because it is a social insurance program that keeps you from being in poverty when you're a senior, and the reason why I think billionaires should pay more taxes than other people, even a higher percentage.
She seems like she's actually listening.
It works better for society. The greatest expansion we've had in this country in terms of economics and the least amount of wealth disparity was in the 40s and 50s and 60s in this country. Do you know what the top marginal rate was?
It was high.
Do you know what it was?
I don't know the exact number, but...
If you made over $470,000 in 1955, every dollar you would make above that was taxed at 90%.
So I have a question.
90 cents on every dollar was taxed above 470. So if we had in today's dollars,
which is wild, by the way. But
in 1955, individuals making more than $200,000, or the equivalent of $2.4 million today, or married couples with an income of more than $400,000 or $4.8 million today, were taxed at 91%. At the highest tax bracket. Most of these people were private business owners. Yeah, I did. I'm doing a screen grab. 91% at the highest tax rate. And what I was saying earlier, and I'm trying to do a video for this. I'm going to put this on YouTube. These were mostly private business owners. We did not have nearly as many publicly owned companies as we do now, where they go public and they trade on the stock market. It's all to artificially inflate the market. It's all just smoke and mirrors. But what it was these people actually benefited to actually take everything after that $400,000 and put it back into their businesses or into their workforce. So by us actually dropping away the effective tax rate to as low as it is now for people making more than that, you have taken away the incentive to actually build your company instead of just profit off of it.
It's also the greatest expansion we had of the economy.
Yeah, you can expand for a time, and then you see places. You see like Nordic countries that were like, oh, let's tax the hell out of our rich people, right? And then they go, whoops, we messed up. We can't actually live off of our terrible. We basically are able to live off our economic boom that they had between like the 40s and the 90s, and then we have to revert all of that because we made a terrible choice and we were able to have a party for 50 years.
That's not
until
true.
We realized we ran through all the money that capitalism got us.
Okay, in the 90s, while Bill Clinton was in office, when he left, we had a budget surplus. He balanced the budget, and we actually had a budget surplus. I'm 40 years old. I remember this vividly. Then George W. Bush came into office. I could not vote yet. The election was stolen by the Supreme Court when they stopped the vote counts in Florida in 2000. And then we had 9/11 happened, and all of a sudden we were at war with two different countries. And we put all of that on credit cards and used all of the budget surplus that we had from Clinton's administration. And now we have been at a budget deficit since.
So let me ask you real quick. So the average person, right? Right now they fundamentally look at Social Security, young people like me, and they go, I'm going to have that money sitting, waiting for me when I retire. Since your opinion is whatever works best for the average person is better, wouldn't you rather shift towards something that I would agree with, which is getting people that are 19, 20 years old into funding their own retirement rather than relying on other people to fund it for
You're
them?
talking like the 401k.
Sure. Well, not just the 401k, but IRAs, any other type of retirement. Would you agree? Would we agree with that?
Social Security was set up as part of a three-legged stool where back in the day when I was a kid, we had defined benefit pensions, where you know how much money you would get out. Yeah. That all shifted in the 80s to defined contribution, where you know how much you put in. Mm-hmm. The 401k started during that Reagan era. It has been a disaster because the fact of the matter, for better or for worse, people just don't save in the way that you're talking about.
Why?
It would be nice if they could.
If the government were changing the mindset and actually pushing that cultural shift towards, we're not just going to hand you money when you're 65. You have to plan.
It's not handing you money. You've been paying into it your whole fucking working life, fucker.
We've had a 40-year experiment of everybody. You know what my parents say? Do you know what grandparents say? They go, well, I'm just waiting for my Social Security check to come in, rather than I have $800,000 waiting for me because I thought about it.
Oh, because everybody has the fucking same
money waiting for me.
Chances and abilities. Oh my God!
I try and tell my kids.
So we agree. We should get rid of Social Security and phase it out. Well, no. So we should phase out. How would you listen to this idea? You phase out Social Security to where people who have 5 years left before they retire get 100% of the benefits, and then people like me who have 40 years until we retire, I'm not going to get it.
I have to.
I'm going to get screwed either way.
No, you're not.
Really think I'm going to get Social Security?
No,
I guarantee
you are going to get
at
it.
the very least, you're going to get 78% of your benefits.
That's awesome. I'll get $9,000 a year. That's great.
In calling for our government to increase the cap, in fact, get rid of the cap, then your grandkids will get Social Security.
Absolutely.
And again, maybe we'll just disagree, but I would much rather result to, hey, 20-year-olds, please save for your own retirement, invest for your own retirement, because the government is bad at dealing with money.
And what happens
Don't rely
if they
on
don't?
them. What happens if what?
What happens if those 20-year-olds don't listen to you?
The same thing that happens if a 20-year-old just doesn't go and get a job because I tell them to.
No.
They're going to have a problem, but that's not my fault.
No, I got news for you. It's not your fault.
Libertarians.
There used to be in New York City
Libertarians.
30,000 people sleeping
No one
on
in this
the Bowery
no one in this room was
before
alive before Social Security. We've all lived under this, just like the
And it
income
has
tax.
been the most successful government program in the history of our government
Things that
program.
are
Absolutely
successful
correct.
don't just
Absolutely
start to die
correct.
out and
It's
end up in the
not dying out.
It's the grab bag of money, the massive excess that was there in the early years because of the 42 to 1
No,
beneficial.
there wasn't a massive excess in 1936.
42 to 1
Dude,
is
that was
a
just
massive
because
excess.
there weren't that many people who had entered into the Social Security program.
And the fact that
In 1970, it was 3.5 workers to 1. Now it's 2.5, but productivity has increased it. I've told you why the Social Security Trust Fund is running out. It is because of wealth disparity. Billionaires hiding and hoarding their money above the cutoff line, which is 176,000. That's the cap. If you
hiding
remove
and
the cap,
hoarding their money.
your grandkids
Billionaires aren't keeping $2 billion under their mattress. They're investing it back into.
They're just putting it into some stock market, or
Yep.
they're just looking around.
And what do you
for
think
Yep.
a
crypto or
401k or an
Exactly.
IRA relies upon? It relies on the stock market and things
Yeah,
like that.
a 401k relies on the stock market, and I knew people who were retiring in 2008 when the stock market tanked, and they got screwed.
Comrade Sam.
That's a whole other problem. I would argue that's
that is
largely
the
driven by the
problem.
government
That is
being
the-
once
that
again
is the
terrible with
problem.
policy and
That is
creating
the problem.
bad economic
Social
hazards.
Security is there regardless of what happens with the stock market.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
That prick who thinks that empathy is a fucking sin should not deserve to even be allowed a voice in this shit, because he thinks that if you get fucked by the stock market, by the ultra wealthy robber barons playing around with your fucking money and your 401ks, should be allowed to just, oh well, we crashed the fucking market. Oh well, fuck off. Now you all have to deal with it. What happens when him, who he's invested his whole fucking life, and he thinks, oh, I've made all the right decisions, and then the stock market crashes again? Yeah, what happens then, Bubba? It's not the government's fault, you freak.
Micah.
Hey, Micah.
Good evening,
Sam.
Sam.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, this
There's,
should be fun.
An idea that you have that basically government can kind of fix all these problems, right?
He's
If
been
you didn't
shaking his
save
head
for
this whole
retirement,
time.
well, then the government can just come in, swoop in, and save you from
Well, not
that.
swoop in. It starts on literally the day you get your Social Security.
Sure. It swoops in once you retire, right? Once you can.
Well, you pay
It's not about swooping in.
Right, exactly. And so you believe this idea basically that government is an effective organization, which it just time and time again, if you look at history, that's proven to not be true.
When you're hitting at retirement, you don't know. This is an insurance program. That's it. It's an insurance program, and it basically says you're insured against eating cat food when you're 65. And it
Exactly. That was
works.
what was
It
happening.
works.
No. Oh my God. Oh. God, I'm glad Sam has more control than I do. That kid that just was like, huh. Hey, guess what? Look at history, you dumb pricks. There were tons of old people, retired old people, that were not allowed to work in the job market that did eat cat and dog food to survive. It is history. Doesn't matter if you think it's stupid or sounds dumb, because it fucking actually happened. Get your fucking head out of your asses and look it up, you fucking stupid entitled fucking cultists.
No, it doesn't. You should have, well, one, you should have your own personal.
How doesn't it work?
How doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've already discussed the details of how it is just completely failing as a program. Like
Well, how is it failing as a
Because
program?
I'm not going to receive any Social Security
I've already
benefit.
told you right
I know.
now.
I'm not going to rehash out that debate.
Well,
the main
go look at the
issue.
numbers. You've just been told this, and you know why you've been told it? Is because they want to raid it to give tax cuts to rich people. That's why.
So are you saying there are the Trump tax cuts were only for rich people? You're saying
No,
people.
no, I'm not saying they're only for rich people.
Oh, okay. Then how could
rich
they
people
only
benefited more from it than low-income people? And I would
And
say,
what do you mean benefited more from that? Because we already went over the percentage
'cause they
numbers,
don't
and we
need
know
the
that's
money.
not true.
They don't need the money as much, and they don't need it.
What are you talking about? These rich people are the people that are investing in smaller businesses. These are the people that are giving other people jobs to allow them to provide for their family.
Okay,
Listen,
pause.
Yeah, that kid wasn't going to do nothing on that one.
What's up? Good to be back.
Nice to see you.
Okay, yeah, nice
This
to see you
dude,
too. I want
fuck.
to zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
So obviously you're pinpointing on Social Security, and there's a reason for that.
And healthcare too.
Oh, okay, but Social Security is the program that you're very concerned about, and that or like
Medicare.
that-
I'd love a Medicare for all program, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the reason you're focusing in on Social Security precisely is because Social Security is the most successful in a shadow of social welfare programs and government spending. That it's like the
It's
Democrats.
also the biggest bucket
Sure,
of money.
it
that
is the biggest
government's
bucket, but the
biggest thing.
Democrats have these social programs and this deficit spending, and it just never ends. It's never enough money. So you're focusing on Social Security because it is the one successful child, but you're ignoring all the social welfare state that we've become.
Social
70%,
Security and
well,
Medicare and Medicaid make up
the majority.
over like a
Right, so
third
70%
of our
of
budget.
70% of our federal
third.
spending is mandatory. And that, you're right. It's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, interest on debt. 8% of our
According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, 61% of spending is mandatory, and 13% is on interest payments for a total of 74%. So because of all the money that was borrowed during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all the massive increases to military budget spending, we pay 13% just on interest payments, not paying down the debt that we owe, just on the interest payments. We could be cutting the military budget and actually, maybe bringing our guys over to live at home, and maybe they could build infrastructure and we could actually employ them here in the United States, but who knows? I don't know.
who we're paying for that. So the Democrats run on this, essentially they want a welfare state. So yes, Social Security might help a lot of people, but it's like we're closer to a welfare state than we've ever been.
We don't
38%
want
of
a
our- the
welfare
GDP
state.
in the U.S. is government.
We don't want a welfare state. We just simply want everyone to have the same opportunities and access to opportunities as everyone else, no matter who you are, who you know. As a leftist communist, I totally believe that everyone should be able to excel and succeed in anything they put their mind to. They should also have the ability to be able to focus on what they think they want to do as a career or as, something that brings them joy in life, instead of just simply having to work just to simply survive and not even being able to survive at that. So that's the way I see it.
Government spending, that's the highest since World War II. So us conservatives, we're trying to tell you, like, you guys are fiscally really
So are you worried
irresponsible.
about the tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The tax cuts.
Wait, was there?
Yeah, so
did
I
that
think
switch?
the reason you're
Or
focusing
was that the same thing?
on Social Security precisely.
Tax cuts and what that does to the debt and deficit?
The
I
tax
don't
cuts increased
If
revenue.
it did, I
No.
didn't see it.
Yes.
I want to tell you about Kansas.
Okay, tell me about Kansas.
Sam Brown back in 2012 brought in Arthur Laffer. You know the Laffer curve, right? That's
Laffer curve, yeah.
the argument that if you cut taxes, you're going to get more revenue. It
And that's exactly what happened.
destroyed
No, that's
Kansas.
exactly what happened.
Kansas enacted tax and spending cuts in 2012 and 2013. Brownback argued that this fiscal potion would generate an explosion of economic growth, but overall growth and job creation in Kansas underperformed both the national economy and neighboring states. They underperformed the nation and their neighboring states.
It destroyed Kansas. By 2016, a Republican legislature raised taxes again. They destroyed their education system.
Reality is against you, my friend.
Look up Kansas.
The numbers
during
say
the Trump administration, they sent Sam Brown back. They made him the ambassador to faith because they didn't want this guy around because it was a disaster.
If you want to tax the rich, you should vote Republican because they pay more in taxes under Republican.
No, they don't.
It was the same.
No, they don't.
Look at Kansas.
Look at the U.S. We have the numbers for this.
It was the perfect
Obama's
experiment.
best year, federal income revenue, is pales in comparison to Trump's worst year. Do you get what I'm saying? Does more taxes necessarily equate to more revenue?
Yes.
No, that's where you're wrong. So if you look at TCJA, and I'll say the numbers again, the top 1% paid more into the system. GDP grew, wages grew 3% year over year.
I really want to
TCJA.
know what this
So when
looks
you're saying
like
tax the rich,
unedited.
But
it sounds like you're actually a Republican. You just don't
I'm
know it.
intrigued now.
You're confusing causation with correlation because Obama's economic recovery was way too slow, and I agree with you on that.
Way too slow.
Way too slow.
Yeah,
When you
I agree.
have tons of stimulus, what you're doing is you're creating the Great Depression for the bottom 90%. All the assets inflate. So who does that benefit? Your policies benefit the 1%.
No,
Inflation disproportionately benefits the 1%. It's an immoral tax on the poor.
Listen,
and that's exactly what happens when they
COVID
stimulate.
inflation was not a function of monetary stimulus.
It absolutely was. They increased the money supply by $6 trillion,
No, I
man.
understand they did that. I understand they did that, and they could pull it back on taxes with the wealthy if they wanted to.
You can't
You're making an
tax-
argument
you
for
don't-
higher taxation.
Okay, do you think taxing people makes the country wealthier? Is that what you think?
Does it
It's
make
not
the
about
country
wealth.
Taxes make us wealthy. Is that government?
We're not. A
increasing
government
taxes,
is
are we
not
now more wealthy?
made to
Do you
be
think that
wealthy.
The only
If
way
you
you
tax
get,
and
the only
if
way
you
you
tax-
create
We're
wealth
not-
is by producing.
If you tax
Okay. This is why a government cannot be run like a corporation. A government is not a corporation. It is not meant to create wealth. It is meant to create revenue. There is a difference. The government can run at a deficit because it's not a corporation. It is not part of the economy in the way that people seem to think it is. Oh, God, this hurts my brain so fucking bad.
and spend, government stimulus can, yes, increase GDP, of course.
Is GDP wealth?
Is GDP wealth?
If we import 10 million immigrants and our GDP goes up, are we now wealthier? If the housing costs more, if CPI goes up because there's more people.
No, I understand. And inflation is under control, and we haven't pulled that
Oh,
money
this
off
kid's
the table.
trying to talk to Sam that he
Inflation is
doesn't
back-
like.
is
He
back
doesn't
down
know.
because we had a problem.
The welfare
with
state makes us all
logistics.
poorer.
No,
Yes,
doesn't.
it does. And you can see
It
it
doesn't. We
across
have
history.
if you compare,
People want to
if you
come here for
compare-
economic opportunity. We don't want handouts. We want opportunity. That's why as an immigrant, that's why my family came here. We left the socialist paradise. It's garbage. The people that come here want economic opportunity. And you're stifling
Oh
that.
yeah,
You're
we're
undermining
owning him.
capitalism
Yeah,
and
he's
free
owning him.
markets with your utopian visions.
He's
And
owning the libs.
well, there's not anymore.
No,
Owning
there's
the
not.
libs,
There used
man.
to be.
No.
That is what makes America the greatest. That's what makes the greatest. America is the greatest economy in the world because of the free market.
The greatest
free market capitalism is the most ethical and
America
moral.
had was
No.
when we had
That's
90%
bullshit.
tax.
That's not true. The numbers are against you.
1940, 1950, 1960, the highest top marginal
So
tax rate
stagflation.
was
So what happened in the 70s?
90%, and we
When
had
Milton Friedman predicted stagflation in the 70s with your social welfare.
we had OPEC.
When-
we
when
had
your
an
welfare
oil
rate-
shock that drove inflation way up, and that was a function of OPEC. But in the 1940s,
Yeah, heaven forbid that
1950s,
we
and
blame the
1960s,
fucking
highest top
Middle
marginal tax
East,
rate was
Saudi
90%.
Arabia.
We had wealth inequality shrink.
post-World
We
War
had something
II
called the
industrial
Great Compression,
What you're-
and more
we
people
had
enjoyed
post-World War
and
II
more
industrial
people
revolution.
enjoyed
We were
wealth
producing
than at
more than
any
every other
time in the
country.
country.
It's because we
So if we were producing more, and that's why we were so economically powerful, why are we not so economically powerful anymore, and why are we not producing anymore? Could it be that Reaganomics and NAFTA and all these other programs that were for free trade took all of our factory and production jobs and sent them overseas so that they could basically profit off of the labor of all these people in China and Vietnam and Korea and all these countries over there, and left us to simply become a consuming society and a consumer economy. And now they simply take our tax dollars from us to artificially inflate their profits so that their shareholders are happy at the end of the day, and the CEOs can get their bonus. I hate it here.
We're producing more than every other country. That's what creates wealth.
And
Production.
we were doing that with a 90% tax rate on the wealthiest individuals.
Which was less when
90%.
Reagan came in and brought it down, the top 1% paid more. Can you believe that?
No.
Do you know that federal income tax? Wait. You know federal income tax? It was when it was established.
You're talking about the Laffer curve, and I'm telling you to go look at
here's my last claim.
Kansas.
When federal income tax in 1913, when it was established, was only targeted at the people making 100,000 and over. Now we don't even know, most people don't even know that. It's just a base tax. Why? Because the projections that they had of taxing the rich didn't work out like they thought. Because it doesn't work out. There's a ton of loopholes. The rich are smart. Like the rich.
No, it's not that.
So focus
listen,
on producing.
listen. Let's all get it out of our fucking head that the rich are smart. The vast majority of the wealthy in this country and in the world did not create that wealth. They inherited it from their grandparents or their parents. They have never known any kind of struggle. They have not created anything. They have simply just continued to get more and more money from making money off of the money being in the bank systems. These fucking people do not care and do not have any kind of extra smartness to them to not pay taxes. It's called, I can hire an entire fucking army of corporate lawyers to make sure that I find every single loophole. So imagine if every single American had the ability to hire an army of lawyers. Don't you think that we would all probably think that it would be a good idea to just fuck the system and benefit off of every one of those loopholes? Maybe. Who knows?
Still produced an effective tax rate that is double what it is today. 50% effective tax rate.
Does not create more wealth.
Yes.
More taxes
well,
do not
I don't
create.
know what you mean by
It's not wealth.
I mean,
wealth is very simple. It's production of goods and services.
You notice that the flag counts? Nobody's raising flags. What the fuck?
Money buys wealth.
Creates less
Were they
wealth
told not to
inequality,
to raise
then,
flags?
you
This
have
I
wealth that is shared by more people rather
Jubilee.
than
No.
being in the hands of
No.
of
You
a
do not get my
plutocracy
subscription,
or a
bitches.
plutonomy,
I don't like it.
And then you get stuff like an oligarchy.
We've seen
like
what
we have
happens
today.
when you punish your
I
top
do not
producers
like it.
over and over again. They leave. They stop producing. The government, the
Capital flight's a myth.
No, it isn't.
I'm only watching it because of Sam.
Wait. When did this happen in the country? When we had a 90% tax rate?
It happens in every socialist country. This is the socialist playbook. They come in and they're like, guys.
This is not a socialist country, and I'm not calling for socialism to have higher tax rates.
It is more socialist than ever before.
No,
we have
it's
more
not.
social welfare
Oh my
spending.
God.
I'll say it again. 38%
Look at this.
of
None of them.
spending
Everybody's
of
like,
GDP is government spending.
In 2024, the U.S. government spending was estimated to be 38% of the gross domestic product. However, welfare only accounts for about 7% of government spending, and that's excluding health insurance. Beautiful. This guy sucks is true.
We have more social welfare programs. And look at what happens. But how come we have all these programs and the black community is still living in poverty?
What programs are you talking about that are geared towards the black community? We during in 2021.
What do you mean, what programs?
We expended. Hold on.
Oh, whoa. Breaking news as of 5 hours. I don't know why this just now popped up because Blue Sky sucks. Plane crashes in Manheim Township, Pennsylvania. This comes as the transportation secretary allegedly was feuding with Elon Musk last week. We in this to win it. I'm loving all this winning.
What do you mean? What program? How much money is enough? When is it enough? You have the richest country in the world.
We offered $300.
The way you guys think is just insane to me. Like,
let me just finish this.
All right, go
in 2021, we extended the child tax credit, which is basically a payment, $300 per social welfare.
Yes.
We cut child poverty in 1 year by 45%.
Child poverty in 2021 fell to 5.2%, the lowest rate on record according to Census Bureau measures. The child poverty rate was cut almost in half from the previous year's rate of 9.7%. The decline in child poverty was driven primarily by the expanded child tax credit included in the American Rescue Plan.
By 45%, but because no Republican would join the Democrats, and Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin voted against this provision in Bill back. I'm talking 2021. From 2021 to 2022, we cut child poverty in this country by 45%. Look it up.
I feel like when I look at it,
I guarantee you, I will give you my phone number. You call me, and if I was wrong, off camera.
I guarantee you.
You will see that we cut child poverty
that's
in a year by 45%.
See, okay. This is one of the biggest things that drives me insane, is that if you all would just stop and listen to us for fucking 20, 30 minutes instead of just watching clips of us and actually like engage with us, we would let you know we want the best for you. Sincerely, out of everything that I hold dear upon my 3 children's lives, I want nothing but the best for every single person everywhere, even the Nazis. I don't want them to be Nazis anymore because that's bullshit, but I still want the best for them. I want them to have every single opportunity, and I want them to have a life of fulfillment, not just simply survival. That's what we want for you. Please understand that. God damn, I love you. I say that at the end of every single one of my streams. I love you.
Okay, and I'll look into your claim.
All right, guys.
All right. Anyway, we'll talk after.
My next claim is Trump's policies make the rich richer and the working class poorer.
Hello, sir.
Hey,
Hunter Howell. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so
I gotta
do you
turn
mind
off
if I ask
my
what
fan. I'm gonna
policies
step off for a
specific
sec.
are you referencing to?
Tax cuts for the rich. I think his idea of tariffs on countries and the way that he's talking about will make people poorer. I think all of the work that they're doing in terms of attacking the government agencies will make people poorer because, you know, when you get agencies that are supposed to protect us from corporate interests, they will externalize their costs, those corporations, instead of actually assuming themselves. So their profits are made on the backs of all of us, whether it's our health, our protection from consumer rights, worker rights.
I decided I'm going to stand up now.
Policies will make us poorer.
So real quick, I'm going to touch on one of the things that you said. Now, there was a lot to unpack there, but
There's a lot of policies.
We'll start at the very beginning. You talked about taxes. Let's talk about, in his first term, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. There are a couple things in that specific policy that actually do
I don't know what
benefit
I
the
almost
middle
broke,
class
but I
and
almost
the lower
broke some.
class
Oh, well.
more than the top 1%. So you mentioned taxes, right? But in that, from the IRS data that came out, the middle class and lower class got affected. I think they ended up saving like 3 to 4% on their taxes, on their tax cuts, whereas the billionaires only saved 2%. So if we're talking an actual dollar amount, sure, the billionaires saved more, but they also make a lot more, right? Also, the billionaires don't really care about an extra grand or two. In that specific policy, the child tax credit doubled from $1,000 per household to $2,000. No billionaire cares about an extra grand in their pocket, but I can guarantee you the working class does. So how would you rebuttal that?
I would say, in terms of the taxes themselves, well, the policies that Trump wants to pursue this time are to expand those taxes for wealthy folks. And over time, what starts to happen is you have this wealth disparity, and as the wealth disparity increases, it becomes harder for working people, essentially, to keep up. Things become more expensive. You get inflationary pressures when you have people with more money. We have more and more billionaires than we did 4 years ago. And a large part of that was obviously COVID, but a large part of it is also money starts to accelerate. Once you, like you say, when a millionaire gets a tax cut for a couple of grand or 60 grand or $500,000 at the end of the day, they end up investing that and it ends up growing because they're not out there working for their money. Their money is just is doing all the work.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think we can agree with you on that when it comes to, you know, billionaires and millionaires and there being a wealth gap in our country, right? I don't think Republicans or liberals would disagree on that, but I think where we will fundamentally disagree is under Trump, right? The stats show that take-home pay was higher for the middle class and the lower class. Inflation was down. They weren't paying as much on taxes.
Inflation was down, but wage growth was actually greater during the Biden administration.
Well, that's because due to COVID, when a lot of people lost jobs.
No. I mean, I'm talking in percentage comparison between those 4 years and these past 4 years, wage growth grew, not from as a baseline on 2020, but I'm talking as a baseline from 2016.
Interesting. Okay, well then another
This
point
guy
that
bores
I want
me.
to talk on with you real quick is you talked about
Sorry,
slashing government agencies. For instance, the Department of Government
posting my
Efficiency. I'm sure
clips
you've
real
heard
quick.
about that a lot in the news.
That's not a
Doge.
government agency. That's just some
It is
committee.
actually an executive order was signed to make Doge an official government agency as of less than a week ago. So yeah, it is an official government agency. So obviously we're talking about money. We want people.
Doge is not a full government agency. President Trump reorganized an existing group within the executive office of the president to form Doge, which has team members working with agency heads. Just so we're clear.
People to be able to afford a house. We want them to be able to afford to raise a family, right? As a young man myself, I want to be able to grow up in America and be able to afford food one day, right? I mean, I can now, but continue that. And at the way things are going, it's unsustainable for people on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. So we have to come to a common ground on how to fix that. What's unsustainable? The fact that cost of living is increasing year after year.
What does Doge do to inhibit cost of living?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Doge is going to do, the Department of Government Efficiency, is slash a lot of the federal spending, right? So what happens when the feds...
What spending is going to get cut?
So I'm getting there. 1 second, sir. So what's going to happen is the Department of Government Efficiency is going to slash a lot of federal spending. What happens is the government, Republicans, Democrats alike, spend a bunch of money that, excuse my language, but it's nonsense, right? They spend it out here, they spend it out there.
Be more specific. Here or there, are you talking about cutting defense? Because they're not going to cut defense.
Well, for example,
wait a second.
Well, no. Let me finish. Okay. $175 billion to Ukraine, first and foremost. That was a bunch of nonsense. So we're going to talk about that, but we also...
Okay. I noticed that there's no fact check on that shit. We did not give them cash money. We did not give them stocks. We did not give them even bonds in America. We gave them $178 billion worth of military aid, which means we gave them the old shit that we were going to end up buying new stuff anyway, and we just ended up giving it to them to shoot at Russia. And then we used that money to buy new stuff and replenish our own stockpile. So, you know, the right stuff.
Also have a bunch of other things in the Defense Department as well as a bunch of DEI departments.
Well, they're not touching, first of all, there are no DEI departments.
That's completely false.
Listen, defense spending is not going to be touched by Doge.
Wrong.
And when you talk about the government, what's the biggest expenditure government has?
Our military and Social Security are our top two.
And Medicare and Medicaid, right? Now, they're not going to touch the military. Are they going to cut Social Security?
You're asking me like I'm part of Doge.
No. Well, you're telling me that
Are
Doge
you?
is going to stop everybody here, and I'm telling
He might
you, if they
be.
cut Social
Who
Security,
fucking knows, man?
Everybody in here is going to get hit.
We're apparently going to get arrested if we talk about who's Doge.
Because Social Security keeps 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. So tell me what they're going to cut that's going to make it easier for Americans.
I already did.
What?
I told you the $175 billion that we've sent to Ukraine. We're no longer going to
So he's gonna-
Yes,
so
so
wait.
Donald Trump has
Okay,
signed an
pause.
executive order.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please
Thank you,
return
sir.
to your seat.
Okay, so why did we see a higher increase in the top 1% paying as part of federal income revenue under TCJA?
Why did we see a higher increase in the?
So under TCJA, it was passed 2017, it was
Right.
effective 2018. 2018 and onward, we actually saw the top 1% pay more. They had more of the federal income tax burden. They paid 45% as opposed to Obama. During Obama's tax plan, they only paid about 40 to 42% of the
Because
federal
they got
income tax.
more money.
Right, okay, so they got more money.
They got richer.
But why are they paying, and why did they get richer? So this goes on inflation that,
I mean, that's my point, is the richer getting
Oh, he's got
richer.
notes, huh?
right, but and you mentioned,
He's
why
got
would you say that they're
notes.
getting richer? But you mentioned inflation?
I got notes, Daddy.
No, they're not. Well, I mean, I think that inflation, to the extent that there was money that wasn't a function of like logistics and other problems that we had during COVID. Yeah, the rich got richer. Not all inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can tell you this, inflation went up.
Federal
in
Reserve
Europe,
ebbs and flows. Oh,
in
God damn it.
Western European countries. All inflation is a function of monetary inflation.
That's true, but when we look at COVID and we can see that they increased the money supply by 40%, they added $6 trillion, and you have a Federal Reserve System that's doing quantitative easing and pumping stimulus into the economy, you can attribute that to left-wing policy. The entire Federal Reserve System is Keynesian economics. Those are very left-wing.
Well, I can.
The Federal Reserve ebbs and flows between monetarism and Keynesian economics.
I'll tell you this, inflation went up in Europe, Western.
Monetarists believe in controlling the supply of money that flows into the economy while allowing the rest of the market to fix itself. Keynesian economists believe that a troubled economy continues in a downward spiral unless an intervention drives consumers to buy more goods and services. Basically, boosting your faith in the market and the economy so that you won't rip your money out like when we had the Great Depression and the stock market crash.
In Western European countries, the same rates that it did.
That had stimulus.
No, they didn't have the same level of stimulus that we did. No, they did.
They absolutely did.
They did.
You can look at Japan. Yeah, I hear this topic all the time from the Democrats. They say, oh, inflation was global. Not true. China never went above 3% inflation during all of COVID. And they were actually, they were under deflationary pressures. Japan, which is part of the G7, was also never had deflationary pressures. They never had inflation increase. The only countries that had inflation increase.
I'm talking in Western Europe. You
Like
could
what
see
country?
Well, you could England, Germany, Italy, France. They didn't stimulate as much as we did. It wasn't monetary inflation. If you look at the cost of goods and logistics got screwed up because of COVID.
So let's look at the reason. All international trade, because we're the world reserve currency, is done in U.S. dollars. Because we experience it, domestic inflation was high.
So you're saying our inflation caused higher inflation in Europe?
Absolutely, because
that's
trade,
not what economists
it is international. Say. Well, you can look at the facts. International trade is we have.
Dude, why is this guy back?
Why? That's why
is he
we're the world reserve
back?
currency. You guys claim that the U.S. recovered faster than anybody else. It's like, well,
it did.
It's because we have a privilege of being the world reserve currency, and we export our inflation. Like the strength.
We export our inflation.
Yeah, and let me explain that. The U.S. dollar is the most safe
back.
asset in the world. In times
Soviets,
of
yeah,
great
it's always the
volatility,
fucking
COVID
communists
crisis,
that were not
everybody turns to
actually
the dollar.
communists,
Many
but just
currencies are
oligarchic
tied to the dollar.
dictators.
So it's like when you
The euro's not tied to the dollar.
Fascism is the new in vogue style. Let's go.
The euro used to be above the dollar.
I'm unclear what your point.
My point is that the inflation is caused by left-wing policies, and
so inflation was caused by, you're saying,
supply shock and pumping trillions of dollars into the economy.
First of all, you understand that the Federal Reserve is is not part of Biden. Didn't have control of the Federal
Absolutely
Reserve.
not, but the entire Federal Reserve System is left-wing in economic theory. That's the Keynesian economics. It's interventionist economics. So,
you're saying that the
more you
quantitative
stimulate,
easing,
the more you stimulate. Yeah.
why didn't we get it through QE?
We do get it through
Why
QE.
didn't we get inflation during the
2008?
Obama years?
We did get
when
inflation.
We didn't get
The wealth gap that you guys attribute.
Oh,
we
Jesus.
What
This
numbers
guy's
of
making my
inflation
brain
we get
hurt.
during the Obama years that were outside of like the 2% sort of Fed,
I wasn't looking
I
when
don't
he
think it was
did.
as high as COVID. COVID hit as high
No,
as
it
9%.
wasn't even remotely
Right, but
close.
when you
Christ.
look at the effects of compounding inflation.
QE 1, 2, and 3 all happened during the Obama years. If your theory was
I've totally become fully believing that it is a cult. MAGA is not it's not a political party. It is a full-on cult. Every time he does something that ends up hurting his own people, his own cultists, they still somehow try to rationalize why it's okay in their mind, why their dear cult leader did that to them. It's worse than a cult because it's a political power now. That's the problem.
correct, we would have had
Hi.
rampant inflation. In fact,
Hope
Glenn
you're
Beck was
enjoying the
talking about
show.
how we were going to turn into,
I've been losing my
Germany,
shit
and
for the
none of
last
that
2
happened.
hours
None
and
of
40
it.
minutes.
And so,
So,
if you
you know,
look at
good
what's
times.
happening at Western Europe, well, no, listen.
We didn't
we
close down the economy.
around
Biden
the
administration
entire
closed
world.
down the economy.
No.
I understand.
No, they wasn't
No,
the entire
the
world.
Biden.
Yes, they forced mask mandates. They supported Democrats.
Wait.
They supported Democrat
Do you
states.
not remember who was president in the first year of COVID?
Yeah, it was Trump. I'm not.
Right.
So I'm not saying Trump had a role in this, but I'm saying.
Well, wait a second. By the time in 2021, the economy was opening back up.
Yes, the economy.
All of what you're talking about.
No thanks to the Democrats.
Well, okay,
The Democrats wanted to keep it closed.
Okay, you can talk about hypothetically what the Democrats want, but
It's not hypothetically. We can look at we can look at their mandates. We can look at them closing
The
down.
economy closed down in 2020. March of 2020.
Yes, get the hell out of there, boy.
Okay, sure.
Donald
Step
Trump was
off.
president.
them to have oh, they already are a religion. It's called Christian nationalism. Not just simply survival. That's what we. Well, we'll see how my clip video goes over because that should be
When
interesting.
you're talking about like inflation,
I still can't believe Emma
2021,
Vigeland fucking
Janet
liked
Yellen
my
said it would be
post, my
transitory,
reply on her
and-
post.
And then again in 2022, she said it would be transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from, like, there was already pretty bad inflation in early
Every time I watch
2022
them
and late
shaking their heads
2021,
as if somebody
but it
has
shot
made
it
some
up.
amazing point. No. No, the blonde woman was the only one that I believe got up there and gets to talk in the whole hour and 30 minutes. That's why I say I really, really wish Jubilee would just go ahead and just let the whole unedited version of this show. You know, I think that would be awesome.
From the low kind of margins and like 3 or 4%.
'Cause I bet there's
all
a
the
lot
way
of
to
stuff that
9%
got cut.
in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%, around where,
Yeah, in between 2.5
Yeah,
and 6,
where they're
Hold up.
looking to get it.
Let's
and-
go
and we
back on that real quick. I don't want to miss that. Let's let this.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet
Just
you.
to start this guy
when you're
over
talking
and get
about,
that fact check read.
Inflation, in 2021, Janet Yellen said
I
it would be
hate Matt
transitory,
Walsh.
And,
I
and
hate
then
all
again in
right-wing
2022, She said it would be
grifters.
transitory, and it turned out to not be transitory. And then one major thing happened in 2022. I think we all know what that was. That was the war in Ukraine. And I believe, and I can explain, that the war in Ukraine was explicitly caused by Joe Biden's bad foreign policy, and that shot inflation up from
Yeah.
like there was already pretty bad inflation in
Yep, yeah,
early
yeah, he's smart,
2022
yeah.
and
He's
late
got some things.
2021, but it shot it up from the low kind of margins and like 3 or 4% all the way to 9% in 2022 of July at the peak.
Inflation is now down around 2%.
The war in Ukraine increased global inflation because Russia and Ukraine are both major producers of commodities like wheat, fertilizer, and oil and gas. Huh. Weird. So maybe if dictator Putin didn't invade Ukraine, we wouldn't have had such a high inflation rate.
Around where,
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, where they're looking to get it, and we have.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't give a fuck.
Really close to record unemployment that we've had over the past 4 years. But how does this have to do with?
Inflation was at 3% as of January 2025. Unemployment hit 3.4% in February 2023, the lowest level in 54 years. It was consistently near or below 4% for the rest of Biden's administration. Weird.
Trump's policies not making the richer richer and the rest of us poor.
Okay, so what I was just explaining with, I was going to get into oil prices. So oil prices.
All right, everybody,
skyrocketed in
vote this kid
2022
out.
because
Come on,
in
red
2021,
flags.
when
Where are the
Biden
red
got into
flags?
office, he shut down our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then
Steven
he
Crowder's a
took the
piece of shit,
sanctions
too.
off
We are
of-
producing right now more oil in this country than we ever
but he-
have in the history
he-
of any country everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
President Biden revoked a Keystone XL permit when he took office, which shut the project down. He also implemented a 60-day suspension of leasing and drilling permits for oil and gas on federal property.
On top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I, am terribly excited about.
What did he just do
but
on the East Coast?
apparently,
What did he just sign?
what Biden did during the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up. And he filled it back up, and he broke the negotiating power and the price setting power by oil countries across the world. Oil traders hail him for doing
Hold up.
this.
I'm going to go
and
back.
frankly,
My
I
mic
don't think
fucking
it's
cut
that
out on me
impressive.
for a second.
Our Keystone pipeline, shut down all new oil and gas leases in America. Then he took the sanctions off.
We are producing right now more oil in this country than we ever have in the history of any country everywhere.
Sorry, I went back too far.
On top of the fact that Biden is credited by oil traders, and this isn't something that I, am terribly excited about.
What did he just do on the East Coast?
Apparently,
What did he just sign?
What Biden
I need to get a new
did
mic
during
cable.
During the past 4 years is he used the strategic oil reserve to drive down oil prices and essentially broke and it's filled back up.
And it's filled back up.
And he broke the.
According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the U.S. is producing more crude oil than any country ever has. More crude oil than any country ever. In 2023, the U.S. produced approximately 3 million more barrels of oil per day than Saudi Arabia. But Trump's out there, drill, baby, drill. Ah, we got to get the oil. Ah, that black gold, Texas tea. Ah.
Negotiating power and
he couldn't be more snidely whiplash if he tried.
Across the world. Oil traders hail him for doing this, and frankly, I don't think it's that impressive. But let's talk about what Trump's policies are.
We only have a little bit of time left, but I was getting to that. So oil prices in 2021, Biden took all the sanctions off of the pipeline in Russia, and then the pipeline in Russia ran straight through Ukraine originally, and he knew that if he invaded Ukraine would destroy the pipeline, and his economic success would be destroyed in Russia. And then when the sanctions,
Biden,
it's the truth.
Putin knew that would occur in Russia.
Like, they keep trying to explain it to people and make you all believe, make all of us believe that the wealthy are some sort of job creators, that they're inventors, that they're facilitators. The true actual engineers and inventors that have made the advancements for us have, one, either worked for the government, or two, did not end up being ultra wealthy, did not become robber barons. If you look at the vast majority of the wealthy people in the world today, mind you, there are 2,200 billionaires, which is insanity. But the other ones, they're just trust fund kids. And their money just makes them money. They don't have to work. That's why. And they don't have any connection to reality. They have been totally removed from any kind of struggle that any person could possibly experience in their lives. It's insanity to me that this is like what they profess, like greed is the new fucking virtue. And empathy is a sin. Caring for others is wrong. You should go to hell for caring about your fellow man. The fuck is wrong with this country?
Russia, if the sanctions were taken off of
Yes,
that
they
pipeline.
think we're
And
parasites.
Biden took all the sanctions
Even though
off
we are the
of,
ones that provide their
Nord Stream
profit.
2 in Russia, like the second week he was in office. And
That is exactly how capitalism works. If you look up how capitalism creates the wealth that it creates, is by paying the worker and the laborer less so that you can charge more and make more profit off of the product that they are producing. And like I said earlier, they moved all of our production out of this country and created us into just a consumer society and economy here in the United States. Now they have managed to get so much in tax subsidies, and they've benefited from their armies of lawyers and bypassed all these tax loopholes, and they have literally robbed us blind. And now they're trying to say, oh, well, we need to just go ahead and privatize all of the government. Therefore, they're just going to rehire the people in the government at a lower cost, and they're going to benefit from it and make it a profit thing. That's why they're trying to get rid of our weather service, the National Oceanic Air, I can't remember exactly what, NOAA. But they're trying to get rid of that so that Elon Musk and all these other robber barons can privatize it, so you have to pay to know what's going to happen if a fucking tornado or a hurricane's going to come and attack your fucking town. The fuck are we letting happen in this fucking country? Son of a bitch. I'm getting pissed.
And then a year later, Putin invades Ukraine. Sanctions happen all over the world, and inflation rises within 6 months all the way up to 9%. Trump is going to do.
So we shouldn't
great
have
things with oil
sanctioned
and let us
Putin and
drill,
Russia?
and what that actually does for the economy.
Like I say, we are producing more oil in this country than any country in the history of the world.
What executive order did Biden just sign to have to do with offshore drilling in the East Coast?
He stopped it.
Yeah. Really dumb idea. We're about to begin a new.
Well, so you want to go beyond even the record-breaking thing?
Yes, I
Are
want to
you
become
aware
energy
of
independent,
climate?
and that lowers inflation.
We're going to
which
sell
makes
this
the
oil.
economy better.
We don't use the oil. We sell
we're gonna,
it.
yeah,
we sell
getting
it.
money in the
We
pockets of
sell
American
it.
citizens.
We sell it. Well, how is that oil getting to the pocket of American
Yeah,
citizens?
exactly,
Because
bud.
when you lower the prices of oil, that lowers the prices of
No,
all
I
products.
understand. I understand that the
Because you're
inflationary
transport
prices effect of energy, but the fact of the matter is, they're just going to sell it.
Yeah,
They're
we're
not
gonna be-
they're
we're
not
gonna
going
be-
to sell it.
yeah, so we're gonna
You
be-
want to produce even more oil than we are
Right,
now.
yes.
And you don't think climate change is going to impact? You don't believe in climate change?
Well, that's a whole nother discussion, but no.
Well, it's the same discussion.
Yeah, no, I believe that climate change is, well, there's obviously an element of climate change that is partially true, but lowering or
Which
raising,
part of it?
See, here's the thing. They all want to act like they're some sort of fucking intellectual, and they're super knowledgeable of what's going on in other countries. Mind you, these motherfuckers haven't ever stepped out of their own goddamn county, let alone their fucking state or into another fucking country. They all think that they just know everything because they watch TikTok videos and fucking follow down the rabbit hole of the right-wing fucking grift pipeline. Those people are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to tell you that the corporations are good to you. And I get shadow banned on all fucking platforms anytime I post political shit. Because I actually want the best for people. Because I'm not trying to talk the shit. I'm trying to spread facts. Wow.
Man-made raising temperatures by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius in the next 150 years isn't necessarily a detriment to society. Human beings.
You don't think so?
No, human beings are very good at innovation, and we can build seawalls, and we can create carbon
What kind
technology.
of seawall are you going to build for Miami? What are you going to do about
There's
when
a
we
bunch of
don't
research
when we
on
get?
it. I'm talking about the economy right now, which if we get back on topic.
They're like,
Alright,
okay,
guys.
we want
Sorry,
another
time's up.
topic,
I'll
so
let you
let's
go.
let this dude end it out. I was wondering why nobody was like, this kid is fucking driving me nuts. But we just want to do topic. Oh, he's going to choose a conservative debate for 10
I choose
minutes.
Ben because he let me lecture him about Social Security. So.
Oh, God, not him again. Fuck. Fuck, I hate this
My
libertarian.
claim is that abortion is immoral and should not be legal.
Yeah, I disagree because
Why does it always got to be
largely
about
because I
abortion?
think
Why is it always got to be about women's bodies?
the primary
Why do these
rights that
white,
we have under
privileged,
society should
bearded,
belong to the
shit
person,
young
and I don't
boys think
believe
that
a
they have the
fetus is a
right to
person.
tell a woman that they
Okay.
can't
Okay.
make
so
their
you-
own
that's
fucking
very
decisions
interesting.
about their
you
bodies?
don't believe the fetus is a person. When do you think that it gains personhood, in your opinion? Would you agree it's a human life, at least?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, yes, I think that's. I mean, largely, I think that claim is largely like it's not relevant to the way that I think about it. I think about it in terms of personhood. I mean, I think like
Seawalls,
life
yes.
exists all around
Yes.
us, and
Not
Didn't
human,
those
well, I mean,
protect-
human life,
human
but
life.
not like
How well did the seawalls work out in Pacific Rim? Did they stop the kaijus? Anyone? I don't remember that being very well. Because guess what? They cut fucking corners in construction all the goddamn time. I'm a journeyman electrician. I've done plenty of construction jobs where they're like, fuck it, just make it work.
there's
Right.
not human life in a tree, correct?
right, correct.
How about all of our
and
nuclear
human
power
life,
plants here in the United
but-
States
Human
where we
life,
use
but it's
subpar
not a
concrete?
person?
It's not a person.
At which point does it gain personhood
I think-
and gain the value of being a human?
Well, I think it becomes a person when it's born.
Why? So 5 seconds prior, it's not born yet, not person. 5 seconds after exits the birth canal, person. Is there a magical quality to the birth canal? What is that?
The person becomes separate from the host.
What a prick. Is there like some sort of magical quality to the birth canal? Right then and there, if I had been sitting there, it would have been like, oh. Sorry, buddy. My hand doesn't like dumbasses and Nazis.
That has been that it's been growing inside.
Okay, so would you assign that to other human beings that are attached to things? Like, for instance, if I'm attached to a machine, am I a machine now? Am I part of that machine, or am I still a human life? I just need support in order to stay alive.
If you've never been born and you're growing in, let's say, a test tube, for instance, then yes.
Oh,
I would
yes,
argue
I get
you're
it.
Not a person.
I get it.
Okay, so then, but it's not really the disconnected part. It's the
No.
being born part.
I just about bet you that this motherfucker's algorithm on TikTok shows him the stay toxic men fucking reels and TikToks. What do you bet? Like, oh, yeah. Be toxic. Make your women think you're cheating on them. Oh, well, for sure. I mean, he's obviously MAGA. He voted for Trump. All of these people voted for Trump. All 20 of these motherfuckers that poor Sam has to deal with voted for Trump. So this prick, like, oh, you know what? I just decided I need to screenshot this real quick. I have a fun idea for a meme. I'll explain it after I screenshot it, okay? Give me 1 second. Okay. Screenshot accomplished. I am going to Photoshop a penis right here in his mouth. I think that'll be nice. That'll look good. And then maybe I'll do something to dude back here as well, because he's a weirdo. Yeah. I'm going to do that after I get off stream. So, if you follow me on my socials, they will be there.
Well, being born means being disconnected from your mother.
Okay, so you're specifically aligning.
I love all the
having
JD Vance memes. Those are
the
loving. I'm
quality
loving
of
those
being
shit.
birthed as what makes someone a person.
Person within the context of like our society and civilization.
Yes,
So just in our
Brokeback
society, you
MAGA.
wouldn't say that,
Nice.
that objectively that's a person. You would say that we just decide that it's a person because it's birth.
You want to know something? One of my all-time favorite movies, and I'm genuine, 100%, hand on my heart, is Brokeback Mountain. That is one of the most amazing love stories I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't know what the Fediverse is, but I would be interested. But Brokeback Mountain is amazing. Like, I knew watching that movie that Heath Ledger was going to be the best Joker ever. And I was fucking right. I do Twitter more. Reddit's kind of, I got into it really late. So, and I got into Twitter late, but it was easier to deal with. But Brokeback Mountain, that is a great love story. And the end, spoiler warning, when Jake Gyllenhaal gets Heath Ledger's character's shirt that had the blood on it, and he's crying in the room, and his parents are, his mom knows and everything. I lose it every time I watch it. So, just so we're aware, that's how in touch with my feelings and how much I will be honest. As I'll tell you straight up, Brokeback Mountain's a badass motherfucking love story. Best, just fucking amazing. And to think that it's the guy who did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon that directed that. Strange. The Fetterman universe. Oh, God. I do not fuck with John Fetterman. That guy who got brain damage from his stroke into becoming a right-wing psycho fucking APAC friendly fuck.
Yeah, rights we give to persons. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's an interesting.
I'm a communist, so I really don't like any of the political parties or any of the people.
I'm conceding
So
that
that's
it's human
that's where we're at.
life, but that you're not a person until you're born, and you do not have the same rights that we would give. Look, we have rights about cruelty to animals, for instance, right? But they're not persons within the context of our society.
I'm not saying that they are, but specifically, it seems like you're just kind of saying, oh, it's a person when it's born, but you're not actually providing any consistent reason for that. You're just saying it just is a person.
I'm saying that on some level, there's a certain amount of arbitrariness.
All right, I'm gonna
as
check
to
it. I'm
when
gonna
we give rights. One could say,
open it
do
in
you say
another
it's at
window and I'll check
conception?
it out.
Sure, yeah.
So IVF, in other words, would have to be illegal under your principle because.
I mean, I'm not sure that I would agree with IVF in that case. It really depends on the particulars in that case, but I believe.
Well, what do you mean the particulars in that?
Well, so for instance, at conception, you would still be a human life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the fertilized egg attaches to the uterine wall.
Is it human life for you or what?
It's human life, yeah.
Okay, so human life should be protected.
Yes.
Okay, so IVF.
Yeah, I would say that.
Mastodon, yeah.
So IVF should be illegal under your rubric.
Mastodon makes me feel kind of like Blue Sky. Like a lot of people I like are on Blue Sky, and I feel like that's where they're going to go eventually.
The egg and the
where
sperm.
A lot of us will end up when Twitter fully collapses.
When is it human life?
But Mastodon, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to fuck with.
Okay.
I've tried.
So it's a new human, correct?
Now in the
I don't have
IVF
enough
process, there's
brainwave
stuff that gets thrown
link
out.
to
You would
deal with
consider
it.
that
Yeah,
murder.
I'm not even defending IVF or going against it. I'm specifically saying abortion. That was my claim, right? I'm not going to argue IVF.
But isn't that abortion under your principle?
I would say if you get rid of human life after conception, I don't think that's moral. I'm not going to argue the IVF particulars because that's not what my claim was, right?
When we're talking about laws, right? Because you want to outlaw abortion.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. When we're talking about laws,
So Krasenstein's on Blue Sky said, buying eggs on the street and weed in the stores. The times, they are a-changing.
It's not just morality when we form public
This guy
policy
chose a
around,
stupid debate
and
question.
create laws.
Not just, but it should be moral, correct?
Well, I mean, I think like your
should have been
definition of what constitutes moral and mine are different. For instance, I would prefer, in a perfect world, not to have abortion on demand until, up until birth, right?
Sure.
In a perfect world. However, we know in practice that when you start to restrict things, like say, only in the threat of life to the woman, let's say, that's the only way we're going to allow abortions, right? When you start to have these exceptions, they're in practice, they don't work. Because when your life is in jeopardy and you come into a hospital, the doctor doesn't see a bulb that shows up above you and say, like, your life is in jeopardy. It's always a subjective assessment. And what does life in jeopardy, hold on, what does life in jeopardy mean? Does it mean a 30% chance of death? Does it mean a 50%, a 70%, or a 20%? That's why we now have women who are dying, because doctors are afraid to perform abortions on them. That's true.
Are you referencing, just because some doctors...
Okay, that stupid kid that just, the one with the fucking blazer like he's fucking Elon Light or Elon Heavy, I don't know what you want to call him. But him like leaning back when Sam's talking about, and it's possible he actually was not at that time because they could have clipped it and, edited it weird. But, to have him like so frustrated leaning back like girls and women aren't dying because doctors are afraid to perform, procedures on them. Acting like that's bullshit. Well, guess what? It's not fucking bullshit. It is happening. Women are bleeding out. Women are losing their ability to produce more children because these doctors are not sure what they can and cannot do. It's fucked.
Misread plain text doesn't mean that that it's
when you
all of a sudden that life
laws,
is less valuable or more valuable.
No, it means that you are subjecting the woman to more risk, and it's impossible. These exceptions are they're canards.
No,
when you oppose a law, it is not just about morality, it's in practice.
Sure,
in practice,
I understand that.
You cannot do this without...
I think cigarettes, you should have kind of like a nutrition facts label, and they should have to show every last single ingredient that is in the cigarette, every chemical, just like they have to show in food. I do believe that they should be available, and it should be legal to smoke cigarettes if you want. Same with alcohol. I think, though, that it should be abundantly clear that it's a choice. And if... Oh, God, it's hard to describe because me growing up, I grew up around everyone smoked around me. And I hated it as a child, and yet I still was smoking cigarettes by the age of 7. Not like, a 2-pack a day 7-year-old by any means, but I was smoking and stealing cigarettes from my family at 7 years old. And I am fully addicted to them, and it's not because of the tobacco or the nicotine, it's because of the chemicals and shit that they put in it that causes your brain to get the high off of it. And then you need it later, and you feel like you have to have it at all times. It's bad, but I still don't think it should be illegal. I think all drugs and sex work should be legalized because then you can regulate it. You can make sure that everything is, safe for the consumer. With sex work, that would put the power into the women. Put the power into the women's hands so that they could be making money off of their own bodies instead of, pimps and, porn producers and all these people making tons of money off of the women's bodies, and then they're washed up at 35, if they're lucky. Sadly, I know a lot about the sex worker industry as well. I've got a whole, if you go to my YouTube, I've got a whole playlist of sex work history, and I've got another whole playlist of union history. It's very interesting. Good knowledge. Very good knowledge. And in King Mob's Corner, we believe knowledge is power. Now let's finish this fucking... This has been an hour and 30-minute video turned into 3 hours, people.
Sacrificing women's lives because
what about
of your
the unborn
morality.
children, though? Because let's go back to your born
Unborn
thing.
children
so let's
are
say
not
you have a
persons,
you have a 9-month.
and the mother has more rights, in my mind, than the unborn child.
Yeah, that's a claim
The
that you can
fetus.
make. But so a 9-month
That's a claim you can
birthed
make?
child, or just 9 month and just now born. It's a newborn baby. A 5-month could be emergency C-section and could be birthed, right? Let's say they don't do that. What's the difference between the arbitrary choice of taking that child out of the womb at 6
Why
months or
don't
5
we
months?
take all children
no, what I'm
out at
saying,
5
no, what I'm
months?
saying is that the personhood just because of birth runs into a problem where it starts to say,
All right, guys.
well,
I hate to do it, but I gotta do it. I'm sorry, that's time.
okay. Hey.
Ugh, thank God. I feel like I
I'm
just
glad
was
I was here.
in a
It
fucking
was
actual
interesting.
real
It was-
fight.
you know, I know my questions were more sort of policy oriented, I think, than maybe folks anticipated here. And
Facts
I
don't
was
care about your feelings.
A little bit surprised that
Right,
there
Ben?
wasn't
Right, Ben Shapiro?
many people here who could
Facts don't
address
care
the
about your
policies.
feelings?
They were very, very sure of themselves as to why they voted for Trump, but a lot of it was sort of not material in any way.
So there was stuff that conservatives were saying.
Hold up. 13 minutes ago, Trump was on Fox News with Judge Janine, who's an alcoholic, saying, I've written them a letter. This is talking about Iran. I've written them a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them. Sweet. So I guess we're going to fucking have boots on the ground in Iran on top of already having boots on the ground in the Congo. And, oh God, where else? A bunch of places we're not even allowed to know. Fucking A.
Today that I fundamentally disagreed with my entire heart, but at the end of the day, we're still part of the conservative movement. So I think there are people that I disagreed with, there are people that I completely did agree with, but the cool thing about this new conservative movement and the people here today is it's people from all different walks of life sharing their perspective.
I don't think Sam had any, like, at least when I was speaking to him, I don't think Sam really had great responses because the reality is not on his side. I don't think socialism works. I think social programs can be good up to a certain.
The problem that all of these people thinking that socialism doesn't work is that they have decided in their brain that because the dictator and the fascist dictator that they lived under was actually a socialist, or that their government was not an oligarchy. That is the biggest issue that people cannot get their fucking heads wrapped around. Yes, just because a dictator controlled every means of the government and the media and said they were a communist or said they were a socialist, doesn't mean that socialism is the problem, you fucking morons. Please. God damn it.
An extent, but we are very socialist as a nation, and yeah, I mean, I'll just say it again: socialism does not work. Sorry.
It's never been implemented
I think
except
debate
for
is healthy,
fucking
and I
European
think,
socialist
it
democratic
helps really
countries
sort of
that do pretty well.
clarify why certain people support certain things, and it gives an opportunity, I think, to both have
We never
fun
left
and drama
colonialism.
and maybe learn
Now
some
it's just
stuff.
fascist again.
So that's always a good thing.
She never
Okay.
called the network racist. I mean, I understand.
Before I get into this one, fuck no, we can't do this one. I can't. I gotta be up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and well, I gotta be up at 6:30 so I can be at work at 8. Okay. Here, let's look. What was I thinking? Let's go back to that for a second. Let me go back to this.
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic
Go to the
nationalism?
very fucking end here.
Social programs can be good up to a certain extent, but we are
Okay.
very
My ADHD kicked in for a second, but I remember now. Let's look up. Everything's on caps lock. Industrialized nations without universal health care. 10 countries without universal health care. This is from World Atlas. The United States is still the only country in the world without a system of universal health care. Canada is the only developed country with a system of universal health care that does not cover necessary medications. Although China does not yet have a universal healthcare system, 95% of its population is now covered by some form of public health insurance scheme. Everyone gets sick at some point. Chances are you've probably had to see a doctor or even go to the hospital for some sort of ailment. Why did he threaten Iran? Because that's his thing. He wants to act like he's got some big balls because he's got a small dick. It could be something as minor as a cold or as serious as cancer. Have you had to pay for your treatment somehow? Do you have to pay out of pocket or have an insurance plan you pay for that covers medical expenses? Or do you have some sort of government-sponsored universal health care plan that pays your medical bills so that you don't have to? Most countries in the developed world have some form of universal health care system. Even some developing countries have it. But there are many countries that do not. Here are 10 notable countries that are still without universal health care. South Africa. South Africa is working towards a universal healthcare model. Post-apartheid South Africa actually has access to healthcare listed as a fundamental right in the country's constitution. In practice, however, public services are severely under-resourced and understaffed. And since most of the country's population is relatively poor, they cannot afford the services that the private sector offers and which are based on one's ability to pay, like America. South Africa is, however, working towards a universal healthcare model. Iran. Most Iranians now receive healthcare services through the public sector. Iran has a population of over 83 million. Despite the tough economic sanctions imposed on it, the Islamic Republic has actually been able to develop a pretty modern system compared to other developing countries. Most Iranians now receive healthcare services through the public sector. Though there is still a sizable private healthcare sector, the country does have insurance schemes that Iranians can buy for healthcare costs, but even with this insurance, not all costs are covered. Egypt. Egypt is working towards having a national health insurance scheme in place by 2025. About 100 million people call Egypt home, which means that there is inevitably a demand for healthcare services. The country's government is working towards having a national health insurance scheme in place by 2025. But for now, Egyptian healthcare is mostly private sector driven, with out-of-pocket expenditures accounting for 90% of private sector healthcare spending. At the same time, about 1/3 of Egyptians live in poverty, so they are ill-equipped to pay for private care. Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa with more than 200 million people. Most healthcare in the country is paid for out of pocket as there is no national health plan to cover costs. The closest thing to universal healthcare Nigeria has is its national health insurance scheme, but less than 10% of the country's population is covered by it, whereas 70% of Nigeria's populace is considered poor and has little access to affordable quality healthcare. Pakistan. Pakistan is home to more than 220 million people, which makes it the 5th most populous country in the world. The country actually has a pretty extensive healthcare infrastructure, but like most developing countries, Pakistan's public health system lacks sufficient resources and personnel to deliver quality health care. For this reason, the private healthcare sector has grown significantly. In fact, the public sector only serves 30% of Pakistan's populace versus 70% of the private sector. Exactly. And we're not even racing towards healthcare. Afghanistan has been in a state of war for decades. Who caused that, huh? In 2001, a coalition of military forces led by the U.S. overthrew the Islamist Taliban regime following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Since then, there's been steady improvement in the country's healthcare. Nearly 87% of all Afghans are now within 2 hours of a healthcare facility. Nevertheless, as in other developing countries, there are just too few facilities, too few resources, and too few medical professionals in a country that is overwhelmingly poor. Universal healthcare is a long way off. Yemen. Yemen is the poorest country in the Middle East, and if that isn't bad enough, the country is now a war zone. More than half of Yemen's healthcare facilities have shut down due to the country's ongoing civil war. In fact, healthcare workers and medical facilities are often purposely targeted by the warring parties. The United Nations has said that Yemen is now the site of the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. Syria. Syria has been in a state of civil war since 2011. Before the war began, the country was actually making significant progress towards improving healthcare. The civil war changed everything. Just like in Yemen, healthcare workers and facilities are purposely targeted by the warring parties. As a result, many healthcare workers have either been killed or have become refugees, and many medical facilities have had to close, especially in areas hardest hit by the conflict. China. The world's most populous country is coming close to a universal healthcare model, but isn't quite there yet. Publicly funded insurance plans already cover more than 95% of the country's population. However, certain expenses such as inpatient and outpatient care, which includes prescription drugs, are subject to deductibles, co-payments, and reimbursement ceilings. In addition, there are some Chinese who cannot afford the premiums charged for publicly funded health insurance. Here we go. Here we go. USA. USA. Number one. Oh, fuck. What were we reading about again? The United States remains the only country in the developed world without a system of universal health care. According to the 2018 U.S. Census, 8.5% of Americans, or 27.5 million people, do not have health insurance. Hi. I don't. I can't get my meds. I can't go to therapy. Hi. Okay. More likely to be uninsured are the poor and people of color. The Affordable Health Care Act passed in 2010, which was a big steaming pile of shit by the Obama administration, significantly cut the number of uninsured, which once stood at 46.5 million. Nevertheless, millions of Americans still struggle to pay medical bills and face the choice of either financial ruin or going without the health care they need. America, fuck yeah. We don't care if you fucking die, yeah. That's where we at, boys. We in the richest country in the history of human civilization. And we don't give a fuck about you, the people who are that country. Remember that, people. We're the country. We own this shit, not the robber barons. No, they don't. All right. I must be a good boy and go to bed. This stream ended up being longer than I expected, but it was amazing. I got a lot of good clips. Emma Viglin liked one of my posts, one of my replies on one of her posts, and that is a massive W in my fucking world. I'm going to live on that fucking highness for a minute. I love all of you. All of you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of all of those you come into contact with. Show love to everyone. Peace and love. Until next time. Good night.